Logic only zone. Welcome, guys, to Logic Church. This is, I think, number 14, or is it 15? Not sure, but it doesn't really matter that much. It is also Easter. So happy Easter to those of you who are celebrating Easter. I'd like to welcome you guys, like I said. And if you guys support what we're doing here, if you enjoy this, if you watch and you like the guests, if you are a guest, if you're a viewer, it doesn't matter. Please share the videos because that's really what brings people in. That's what that's what spreads the message. That's what brings people here is by sharing, because videos like these don't pop up on Google Analytics. Videos like this don't pop up in the feed. So, no matter what people search, they're not going to find this unless they type in logic. And that's just not something people normally type. So, we definitely need people to share the video so that other people can see it and to help you build the community or whatever. And yeah, so again, really excited to be here. Should have a lot of great guests today. Just super excited. It looks like it's going to be a great Logic Church. So again, also, you guys, if you want to participate in Logic Church, please add me on Google+, and that will be sure that you get a invite. So if you add me on Google+, I will be sure to invite you guys to the event. And so you'll know what's happening, you'll know what the topics are, and you can participate. And also follow me on Facebook if you guys want to follow me. So anyway, so today, guys, I'm going to start by making a drink. Today I am making a green tea latte. I don't know if you guys have ever done anything like this, but I got a lot of interesting tools here. All right. And I'm going to put that link in the comments so you guys can join at your leisure. Okay, guys, if the link does not work in the comments, let me know. Post something on the event or something like that. And anyway, so yeah, I've been running around today a lot, doing a lot of different things, so just crazy busy. So we're going to start with some green tea here. All right. Okay, and this is just milk. I just warmed some milk up. All right. And then this is some Torani. So you can get this stuff anywhere, guys. And you don't need too much of this. And I definitely think it's important to add a little bit of flavor. Oh, hey, Jamal. What's up?
Hello.
Making some green tea lattes.
Yeah, this is interesting idea here.
So this is this is a wand, and these are super cheap. You can buy this stuff off Amazon, no big deal. And it just foams it up and makes it all bubbly, like a latte should be. Foamy.
How much did it cost?
It was really cheap.
A little thing.
Yeah, it was like 10 or 15 bucks or something.
Oh, cool.
And just pour the coffee over that. There we go. And then I have this delicious beverage.
That is beautiful.
For my drinking pleasure.
Bravo.
All right. That was my introduction.
So it's a good start.
Yeah.
Lots of logic in that latte.
Yeah, having a bad hair day, but we'll get through it, guys, together. We'll get through it together.
We're here for you. We're here for you. And you're here. What does your mug say?
There is only me stopping me from being successful.
I like it. Very motivational.
That's right. So I'm drinking out of this cup whenever I'm doing any sort of work-related thing.
Yeah. Keep it focused. On point.
Yeah. So did you see that the video I posted? Yeah. What did you think about that?
The compilation one? Yeah, the hype video?
Yeah.
I liked it. I loved it.
That was awesome.
I can't wait till you guys see the part with Skilling. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, you can just keep adding to it. Yeah, that's a cool idea. Just
Yeah,
keep,
so I'll keep adding guests onto
updating.
there.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
cool. Very cool.
So happy Easter, guys.
Oh yeah. Everyone go to church.
Get yeah, we're all at church right now. So.
Oh yeah.
And I'll go to church.
The resurrection of our Lord and Savior.
Yeah. So we'll jump into the topic soon, but does anybody want to talk about anything first?
Can we talk about the resurrection? Like, this is something I've been thinking about. I don't know. Isn't someone here a Christian? Isn't Suki? Don't you consider yourself a Christian? Okay,
Yeah.
Jamal's a Christian. Yeah. Well, I don't know. Maybe this is too controversial, but like, that's one thing. Every time Easter rolls around, I like sort of reevaluate because I was a Christian for so long, and then one of the main reasons that I stopped believing was, well, one of the things I started talking about to Christians was like the only thing that matters is the resurrection, you know. And Paul has a verse that says that, you know, something similar, like, well, you know, if Jesus didn't actually raise from the dead, then, you know, our faith is in vain and everything. And so I'll like reevaluate it every year, and like this year I looked back at I found this file I made where I like compared all the gospel narratives of the resurrection and like what actually happened, and like if you line it up, all the different, like the 4 different narratives, it's like there are too many details that just don't make sense. I don't know if you've looked into this, Andrew, or thought about it at all, but it's something that I constantly, like every year, I'm like, because I go back and forth, because I'll like listen to some debate, you know, or I'll just talk to some, you know, a Christian, and they'll bring up some kind of, you know, argument or something that I haven't heard of, and then I'll go and look at it, and then I'll just come to the same conclusion again. I'll just be like, okay, well, this thing happened 2,000 years ago. It's really, all we have is these people like writing it down, you know, decades later, and that's all we have is people saying that it happened. Like, we don't have any, and it's all people who are close, like who have a reason to want it to be true. Like, there's no like outside source saying that they saw this happen.
There are writings, you know, by other people that are not included in the Bible that talk about. I mean, I'm not saying it's definitely proof, but there is, you know, there are writings, you know, about the resurrection, you know, outside.
Yeah, the Bible. Yeah, I've seen those. There are just no eyewitness accounts besides the Gospels. That's the problem. Is like there is nobody that you would not expect to say, yes, he rose from the dead, writing about how they saw it or how they saw Jesus afterwards. That's the only thing. It's like, I don't know, because it's just so weird. I think about it every year because Easter rolls around, because it's like 1.6, how many Christians are there in the world? Like 1.6 billion, you know, something like that. And it's just like, it's all hinging on this one event that's very, and I'm okay if like people take it on faith, and like if you know, people that come from that perspective, like, well, I just believe that it happened because of faith, and you know, it's not dependent on the evidence, you know. But if you're like some Christians are very logic based, or they want to appear very logic based, but at the same time, I don't know, it's like all built on this one event that's just based on the evidence that we have. It seems very unlikely that it actually happens. So it's just like, I don't know. It's a topic to throw out there for anyone who wants to.
Well, hey, did I make it in?
Yeah. Well, what I do want to say is, like, I think you're right in that it really is about faith for religious people. You know, it's all about faith. So, like, and that's why the facts of the matter aren't really what is important. But I believe in the Bible in that I read the stories in the Bible, and I see a lot of logic in it too, in terms of the story and the moral and the thing that is trying to reach out to people and teach them. So so I think regardless of like evidence or facts regarding the life of Jesus, I think that it's just really great that a lot of these stories do teach really important things to people. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, so from that, and so like, I don't let things like that discourage me from how I perceive it, you know.
I don't know what the evidence is. I don't know what the evidence is, but I've seen there's this Muslim. His name is Rasla something. He's a scholar. You know, he has a PhD in religion and Christianity and all that.
Yeah, I know.
And he put out a book about about Jesus, the the historical figure. Not the story that's in the Bible. He kind of, well, he's a scholar. Scholars actually go and dig deep into what they're trying to figure out. And he accounts that historically it can be shown that the resurrection actually did happen. But obviously it wasn't because it was how do I say this? Historically speaking, we can see that there was this man named Jesus that lived. He was a Jew, and he actually was crucified. And there are different, I couldn't tell you exactly what it is, but according to him, there's historical reason to believe that he might have, actually resurrected.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've heard of Rez Aslan.
Yeah, that's him.
Yeah. He's I remember watching like clips of him on the news talking about Jesus. He's a Muslim though, isn't he? Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah.
He had a really good quote about that book he wrote about Jesus, and he was in an interview, and they asked him why he wrote the book in the type of verbiage that he did, and he said that Jesus as a man is contextual, but Jesus as a God is acontextual. So, like in his mind, it was like you had to shrink it down to the experiences of a man to kind of get inside the head of Jesus as a man,
Mm-hmm.
Which I thought was interesting because a lot of people would go the opposite route. They'd try to play up the spiritual aspects of it.
Yeah. Well, if you read like the Gospels separately, like it's interesting to see the differences. Like Mark, was the first Gospel written, and it's much more like it focuses more on Jesus as a man, whereas like the last Gospel written, John, which was written I think 50 years after Mark or something like that. It's much more focused on Jesus as God. That's where all the verses basically where people point to, that Jesus claimed that he was God or the Son of God.
Right.
That's the gospel where all those come from. I'm the way, the truth, and the life. All that stuff. So it's interesting to see notice the transformation. From kind of how it becomes loftier. What Jesus claimed to be.
Right.
As
right.
The Gospels.
Hey guys, I should say that we're gonna make fun of science soon. So
yes,
just so you guys know.
Why not? Right.
Yeah, just so you guys know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Religion. No, don't worry. We're gonna bash science too. We're on our way.
You remember in what was it? Was it Jesus Christ Superstar, right? Where they had that song "Heaven on Your Mind," and I love the singing in that. It's a great song by itself. And I think it's the first verse. He says, "Jesus, I remember when this whole thing began. No talk of God, oh, we called you a man." And he's given his perspective as like he lost a friend once he became a god. Which was, a pretty cool perspective to think about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm not bashing Christianity.
Oh no, I didn't mean it like that. I meant it as a
Yeah. I mean, I think it's valuable, but I just want to know what actually happened. What actually happened. I think you can view it. Every religion, you can view from the spiritual, kind of plane, and yes, the valuable lessons that you get from it and all that kind of stuff. But then it's also interesting to think what actually happened, in any of the religions. I just want to know. I'm not not to degrade the religions or say that they're any less valuable, but it is, if we can logically, speaking of logic, if we can logically, figure out historically what actually happened, I don't know, that's still valuable to know,
I think so too.
Yeah. So both sides of it are important, I think.
Yeah, and I'm a doubting Thomas, so I gotta put my hand in that side,
Yeah.
It's a problem for me, It's that logical part of me. like the whole concept of just faith. I need a little bit more. I gotta put my hand. I gotta touch the wound, you know. And so I totally get that.
Do you think faith is opposed to logic? I mean, or do you think it's compatible?
I think it has to be I think it's a separate thing. I think you can have faith and then be logical too. I think they can coexist
in different like different areas. Because there's really smart, scientists that believe crazy things, every once in a while. So it's like, you can be really, really smart and logic based in lots of areas in your life, and then there can be one area where you're just very irrational just because you want to believe something.
Sometimes scientists too, like when they're trying to figure something out and they can't, they'll try to come up with crazy ideas, to account them as possibilities, like say they're trying to figure something out, and they cannot think, how it can be, and so they try to come up with crazy ideas that seem illogical, and sometimes that's actually the solution to the problem, so thinking illogically doesn't necessarily mean that it doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense according to what you know right now, so
and
if they try to solve a problem just with what they know, sometimes they wouldn't, find the answer for it. They try to think outside of the box, how they say, and that way kind of, throw stuffs in that, that don't make sense seemingly, but at the end they actually do make sense,
Yeah, and the difference is that they go on to test, they test it. They test their hypothesis, whereas like what I don't like about the idea of faith is like you stop right there. You have faith, you come up with some hypothesis, about what happened or what reality is, but you just stop. You just stop there. You don't test it because most of the time you can't. Like with it, with the religious metaphysical beliefs, you can't test that stuff. So it's kind of like you have to just either accept it or not. And I guess some people fall into the category of like accepting it. It's easier for them to accept it, and then some people it's easier for them just to not. And I guess I fall into the latter category because I'm just I don't know. Every time, like ever since I stopped being a Christian, it's like I'll find a belief system and I'll start kind of going into it and testing it out, and then I get to a certain point where I just can't get past where I'm just like, no, I don't know, I can't accept this faith-based belief.
Well,
it might be a cool belief, it might be interesting, it makes me feel good if I try to believe it, but there's something in the back of my head where I'm just like, yeah, but there's no reason to believe it.
Do you think that maybe like prayer could be a good test? Like say you pray for something and it actually happens. Do you think that wouldn't count as testing?
I think if it happened, if you did it over and over again, you have to test it multiple times, I guess. Like if obviously, like if I prayed for God to reveal Himself to me, to give me some kind of sign, I don't know. I'm trying to think like something that could happen, and I have, let's say I just have like a dream, like I have a dream and Jesus appears to me, or something. But if that only happened once, like I wouldn't have a reason to believe that it wasn't just my brain coming up with that. Like but if it happened multiple times, like every time I prayed for some kind of sign, then something unusual would happen. Yeah, but you would have to. That's the problem. Is usually it's only like a one-time deal. When I stopped being a Christian, like I tried doing that. Like I would pray to reveal, for God to reveal Himself to me or something like that. And
it's Emendum. Gary has joined us.
All right.
Yeah.
Welcome, Gary.
Welcome.
But
yeah, it's just something you can't really test. That's the problem.
But something like, I mean, it would be just a guess, right? But let me paint this scenario, right? Say you have like a drug addiction. You've been an addict for 15, 20 years. Let's assume you're in your 50s or whatever, okay? You've been an addict for 20 years, and then this one time, you never done it before, okay? This for the first time you talk to somebody and they tell you, hey, you know what? Pray to God that He'll take away your addiction, okay? And the man, the drug addict, actually gets on his knees and prays, and instantly, he loses complete interest in whatever drug they were addicted to,
Yeah.
I mean, what would you think? I mean, could it be like just like placebo effect, or could it actually?
Well, I think whatever is like helping you. If you're addicted to something, you got to get off of it. I mean, whatever helps you is a good thing. And I think you gotta give it up to whatever it is that's helping you. But like this whole need we have to prove it. I think what's central to religion is like you have to have faith, and that's like a central concept. So you might have like some need for proof in it, but you got to remember, if you're gonna be involved in it, it has to have faith, right? That's the whole point of it. So
yeah. And the only problem is when you try to impose it on other people, or make laws based on it. That's really the only problem. I don't have like a problem with religion. It's just but I do. It's kind of fun just to try to figure out like I said, what actually happened, like what these religions are actually based on, what events actually took place. I think that's important.
Right.
But we can move on if
okay.
I'll stop.
All right. Okay, so I wanted to talk about black holes.
Yeah.
So what we found is some scientists found whoever the astronomers or whatever, they found gamma rays coming out of what we perceive to be black holes. And as black holes are, things are not supposed to come out of them.
Right.
So, I
read about this,
Yes. So it's challenging the whole perception that we've had of dark holes, that they suck matter in and nothing comes out.
Well, one report says that it shedded its corona, which I don't know if the models that they had before allowed for that. But the other thing is, they said that there was an object that was in that corona, right, that came out prior to the gamma rays. So that doesn't fit with the models that they had, right? So, with these new inventions that they have, this Lisa and Liga, whatever, that should be able to measure the gravitational waves for it. But who knows? It could totally change physics.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it could be a thing where black holes are not what we thought, and that challenges like string theory, the Big Bang, a lot of the stuff that physics is contingent on today. So it's really interesting.
Do you have any explanation for how these two black holes came into encounter with each other? Because I'll tell you, there's no physics that would explain it. If you understand that it's conservative, gravity is a conservative force. That means what you bring in, you take out. So if two objects don't crash coming into a gravitational field, they don't crash into the sun. Say if it's something that comes into our solar system from another place, it either is going to leave or it's going to crash into the sun. And the only way it can stay is it has to interact with some other planet. It has to get caught in the moon, or it has to get caught in the earth. It has to get caught in some other gravitational field that cuts some of its energy, that takes some of its energy. If it doesn't, it's leaving. It's not staying. Or else it's crashing into the sun. It will not spiral around. Two black holes coming from each other from a distance couldn't possibly get caught in a spiral. They would crash right into each other. I mean, if I throw a rock into a solar system, you can understand that it's not going to get caught in an orbit. It's going to crash right into the sun. Its orbit is going to decay very rapidly, and it's going to go. By the time it gets halfway to the sun, it's going to be heading a straight line right for the sun. It's not going to miss the sun. It's going to go straight line right into it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just saying, they give us an example where they give us no explanation for how these two black holes, out of all of space, somehow traveled through space, didn't interact with anything, didn't do anything, and all of a sudden get into this huge interaction with each other, and then surprisingly created bent space, right? Because it's positive energy, it's not negative energy. If I understand correctly, 3 solar masses were converted into essentially time, space-time, and space-time traveled through space-time to get to Earth, to shake the Earth. But they didn't affect any of the other stuff around them. So billions of light years away, and all the stuff around them that was much closer than us, say something 1,000,000 light years away, would be affected by a tremendous vibration, correct? A pushing force, essentially. Space-time just crashed into it. So I'm just saying, you can all talk about all this speculation, but to me it's hugely speculative. These people are talking out of their mathematical asses, and they don't have They have no piece of hard evidence for any of this stuff. So I'm just saying the very idea of a black hole anyway. Do we have any evidence that you can compress mass? That I could take the nucleus of an atom, that I could compress it 1,000,000 times, make the protons and the neutrons and the electrons, make them all much closer together, much smaller, and compress them 1,000,000 times smaller. Do we have any evidence that that's possible?
Not that I know of.
Right.
Well,
all we have is math, then. All we have is math that says I can do it with a math equation.
Ooh.
Well, I can probably make rhinoceroses out of chicken eggs with a mathematical equation. It doesn't mean it can happen in the real world.
I was going to
who's going?
say that black holes... Oh, hello?
You're here. We got you.
Okay, I guess I'll jump in. All right.
I'm probably in a minute, but essentially, black holes are mathematical constructs. Well, something that they invented.
So I'm thinking that there's
In order
there's a dark planet or a dark sun.
I think he's got a delay, and
It's got a real lag problem. Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask a question for Mendham. Do you believe in the concept of singularity?
Well, as I just pointed out, I don't have any reason logically to believe it if I believe matter is constructed out of a regime, okay, a solid regime. Okay, neutrons, protons, electrons are real things, and to condense them, to make them tiny, okay, I'm just saying we have no evidence that you can make them tiny, that we could take 1 billion photons and smash them into each other into a clump of something called mass. I'm saying mass has rules, and I'm saying I don't think you can violate some of these rules, and I think that's why suns burn and all of this other stuff is because they have to obey these rules. And if there's some special way, maybe there's I'm just saying that maybe there's a special way you can do it. They've never explained what the special mechanism would be that gives them the ability to compress mass. As we've seen, mass gets, we can see radioactive elements can't even stay together, and they're rather dense elementary atoms, and they're flying apart all over. They're radiating because they can't stay together.
Right. I've always wondered about that because the whole idea of inflation doesn't really sit well with me. Just the concept of it, right? And the idea behind inflation is that you had this singularity or this intense thing where all this mass was all together, right? This mass and this energy and all that, and it blew apart so fast that it shaped our universe the way it is, right?
Well, but inflation is another one of these things. Like I'm going to say something like dark matter. It's one of these contrivances. They don't have enough mass, so they invent something. Inflation is an invention to make the universe more sparse than their models would indicate it could get, because they're presuming that the initial singularity or the initial Big Bang was a Big Bang of a consistent kind of mass. And I would argue that no, maybe it was a Big Bang like the Earth blowing up. You have all kinds of layers of different mass. You have all kinds of different elements that are blowing up. So some of the stuff shot out in the Big Bang was already a clump. Some of it wasn't just raw energy. But I'm just saying the idea, it's not even inflation, right? It's punctuated inflation. Because it only happens for a millisecond, 14 milliseconds into the Big Bang, and and then it stops all by itself, and it's just it just got contrivance written all over, doesn't it?
It sounds made up.
We made up a solution, right? That's what it sounds like.
So actually, I agree with that. I don't understand, or I've never understood the idea that time would be created when you have a process that starts that requires time. Right, so there has to be a certain time limitation on the inflation, on the Big Bang, and what we're told with some of these physicists is that that's when time started, was with this.
I'm just saying time doesn't start or stop. Time is a consequence, right? We're just saying that what is the alternative to time, right?
Right. There has to be something.
Spontaneous is undetectable. Spontaneous is undetectable, and infinitely slow is again undetectable, right? There's no. How do I detect how slowly the slow is going, right? So
time is essentially just a measure of change as well. It's like, there's something that was one way at some previous
well, I'm just saying,
point,
there's no process. Yeah. Spontaneous process would be impossible process,
yeah.
correct? It's already happened. It's gone. It's already. Whoops! I can't even measure it because it already happened.
Yeah, well, like as soon as you have an already, then it's like, well, time is already going. Like at that point, because you're able to measure change. Yeah, like I'm just saying, it's kind of a silly thing.
It seems ludicrous to me to even talk about time as a concept other than just being a consequence of the fact that there is process, that events do all take time, because that's why there's time, is because they take time to process the events.
Yeah.
Sorry, what I was saying a moment ago is that the only reason that black holes exist is because they're essentially a mathematical conception where it's like the idea is that it's like, okay, they need a force that can affect something at infinitely long distances, but gravity is like extremely weak compared to the other forces. So essentially, they're kind of like, well, we need something that is infinitely dense in order to make gravity strong enough to affect something at like a far enough range. And I'm just kind of like,
even that's a fake argument in a sense, because if you're the electron that gets hit by the photon traveling 5 billion light years, it's not a weak force, right? Because to that electron, holy shit, I just got hit by a photon, all right? It was a big event for that electron. So even though it's 5 billion light years away, on the macro scale, on the scale you should be measuring it, gravity is just as exciting as electricity.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm just saying...
On our scale, it's weak, but on the atomic scale, gravity is just as strong as electricity. It's just that there's less of it.
Essentially my point remains the same, which is comparative to something like electromagnetic force, gravity exerts. It essentially requires more. You would need such a large amount of mass that essentially they need an infinitely dense mass.
The wrong way to look at it is all I'm trying to explain to you, though, is that that's the wrong way to look at it, because on the atomic scale, it's just to the individuals being hit by gravity. Gravity is just as significant as magnetism or electricity.
Well, yeah, on that scale, but but what we're talking about is essentially if you have two bowling balls in space, are they going to like light years apart? Are they going to like pull each other in any way that like we can distinguish?
Let's say it was magnetism. I'm just saying that magnetism wouldn't be pulling the Earth to the sun any better than gravity as a mechanism. I'm just saying, by my theory, magnetism is polarized gravity, so it's essentially a gravity plus. You magnified the gravity by polarizing it and increasing the sensitivity and insensitivity. So essentially you've created the option of having half gravity and double gravity, which can create magnetism's positive and negative force. But I'm just saying, I'm just trying to get to the point.
The very conception.
The only point I want to get to is they've sold this propaganda that gravity is a weak force. And my point is look how far away the Earth is from the sun, and yet the sun is still pulling the Earth into the sun. I mean, the Earth is a hugely massive object. It's not a weak force. Gravity's a motherfucker, baby. If you go caught in it, and to have a black hole that's supposed to be, 2 million suns, right? They talk about black holes having a 2 million sun mass. And I'm just saying, just think of the preposterous strength of that gravity.
Yeah. Yeah. My entire point, though, is that the reason that like astrophysicists came up with the idea of a black hole to begin with is because they needed something where they're like, okay, to account for the gravitational effects, we need something that is like very close to infinitely dense.
I don't think that's why they did it. I think they did it because the math doesn't put any limitation on their vortex. They can make the gravity well as deep as they want because the math doesn't have a rule that says you can't go that deep. You can't make a well. You can't dig a well that deep because you just came out in China. There's no rule that says you can't dig the hole that deep. So they just went as deep as the hole would go because the math said it was okay. So I mean, they do have somewhat evidence that I would argue. If I was going to argue for black holes, I have seen some vague kind of. I mean, it's not very good. Look, none of their images are very good. To tell you the truth, all this Hubble telescope and everything else, the images kind of suck. But they did have this gas cloud that got bent by a black hole in its trajectory, right? So it was traveling and it looped around something very heavy, something gravitational. It seemed quite obvious, and something that was black. Now the question is, could it just be a black planet? You know what I mean? A dense black object. You know, something that do all dense objects have to catch fire? Are they all made out of hydrogen, right? I mean, the Earth, you could make the Earth theoretically pretty fat, and it's never going to catch fire, right? Because it's not full of hydrogen, so it's not going to do fusion, so it's not going to catch fire, right? So you can make a pretty fat Earth, theoretically. So I'm just saying, could those objects just be dense iron objects or dense aluminum objects or some other object that doesn't catch fire?
Well, and it could be anything, but we're just kind of assuming it's a black hole.
Well, I'm just saying it's obviously a significant gravity source. You know, you'd have to argue or something had to go really, really close to its surface, right? I mean, the smaller it can be smaller if something went really close to it, right? But the further away it was out, then the bigger the thing has to be gravitationally to have looped it, to affect it. So, you know, we don't have, obviously the resolution isn't good enough to say which thing happened. Did they go really, like if I went really close to the surface of Mercury, I'm going to get bent just because Mercury has gravity, you know, strong gravity at the surface. And I'm not going to get bent if I'm, you know, 2 miles away from Mercury. It's going to be a breeze. I'll just shoot right by.
So if it's a big planet, what's causing the gamma ray bursts that they're observing coming out of it?
Well, those are different, right? I mean, the gamma ray bursts, I don't know what evidence they have for those, right? I mean, they couldn't even find these things in the first place, and now they're, gamma rays coming out of the center of galaxies? Yeah, we don't know what the hell's going on there, though. I mean, you have to give me the example of the gamma ray burst over an event where I could say, okay, I get what you're saying, but when you just say it vaguely, I don't know specifically. I have to see what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I was just talking about the story that Logic linked to.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess all they could.
Well, the problem with the stories is, you know, the more you research this stuff, you know, you say, you know, here they do something and they have a simulation, and you're saying, what, you mean a simulation? No, I thought you had some kind of real picture, not a simulation. You know, that's the part that's really...
Yeah, it looks like the picture that they show in the story, like all it shows is they see a burst of gamma radiation coming out of the galaxy. So yeah, I guess they haven't actually, you know, it's so blurry. It's such a small blurry little picture that they have.
Well, there's a lot of noise in the center of galaxies. They're all radioactive in the sense, you know what I'm saying? So there is a lot of, whatever it is, there's a lot of bad radiation coming out of the center of gravities. It's why they say, you know, most of a galaxy won't be able to sustain life because, you know, even if there was an Earth there, the radiation in the center of the gravity is so intense that nothing could evolve, you know, but something glow in the dark.
Yeah, and I think the point is, like, I'm not totally convinced there are black holes, or I don't know. Like, all of that physics stuff always seems fishy to me because I never felt like anybody could prove to me, like, oh, that's that, and that's that thing. It always seemed like it was lacking in some sort of evidence. It seemed like they just had math to go with it. So, and that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, see, but this is the real problem, is that the scientists are really disappointing me because you wonder about their credibility. Because the people with this gravitational wave thing, they said Einstein would be beaming today. And Einstein wrote a paper in 1956 or whatever it was, basically saying, no, this can't happen. And, you know, it's so, you know, they're using Einstein's name as if Einstein said this is the kind of gravitational wave he was talking about. And Einstein wouldn't even concede the existence of black holes. And yet they're claiming this is fulfillment of Einstein's dream. And yet you're saying, how can they possibly say that when Einstein argued against the existence of singularities? He basically said it doesn't make any sense. How can you do, you know, you can't do this. You know, you can't compress matter into nothing.
Right, and what troubles me is that these things are being assumed as real things based on the ad populum fallacy. So because everybody agrees or is convinced based on no evidence that's been given to them that there's black holes or singularity or any of those
subjects, you know, where like the regular religious person can read the Bible and they can fact check, you know, the preacher. But in the subject of physics, you know, you do have to take a lot from these people because, you know, it's really hard to learn all this calculus and then learn how to do all these differential equations and all that, and to even understand what the variables are, right? I mean, it's all written in who the fuck knows language, right? I mean, the acronyms don't fit anything coherent, right? Theta? What's a theta? A sine theta? Well, gee, that's interesting. Which theta you're talking about? The one around the curve of his ass or the forehead? I mean, what theta do I want? Oh, it's a special theta. Theta 4? Oh, okay. I mean, it's really... So it's like you can't just as an amateur show up and say, I'm going to read the Bible and now I will know the truth. You know, physics is going to demand more. So the authorities are really on the spot in the sense that people have to take their word for it, and they're taking advantage of that. I guess that's my argument. I see them constantly shortcutting the facts because they're talking to an audience that can't possibly disagree with them. You know, can't possibly say, that's not a fact, that's not a fact, those are all your assumptions.
Yeah, I think it's just important just to focus on what did they actually observe, like, and what are the actual facts, and just kind of ignore all the other, like, theoretical assumptions, like black holes and stuff like that. I don't know, when all these stories come out, you know, just to actually read the actual findings and what they actually observed, and just focus on that.
Well, I only got interested in this like 4 years ago when I had an argument with Pierrot over the two-slit experiment. I said, no, there's not. You know, the whole Heisenberg thing bugged the hell out of me. You know, this whole ambiguous photon floating around, not knowing where it's going, and then, you know, communicating and then hiding from us, and you know, all these magic powers photons were given, And as I started doing research, I started finding out exactly they don't even describe the two-slit experiment honestly. They don't. They certainly don't explain the single-slit experiment at all honestly. You know, they show it with a wider wavelength, where the pattern is much duller. You know, and if you do it with the same exact width opening as the two-slit, you get exactly the same pattern. In the sense, you get just as many bars. You know, which is the important part. And so there's so many deceptions built into what physics is founded on, and you're saying, well, this is their most fundamental experiment, right? For 100 years, this is their cornerstone, and their cornerstone is a sham. I mean, it's a horribly done experiment.
So what about this idea that a lot of them will throw out there where they say something or everything came from nothing? I have a hard time buying that.
Well, I know, but if you watch that guy, he doesn't say nothing. He's saying nothing is something. So he's saying all he's doing is basically saying there is no nothing because the nothing is already something. So he's cheating all over the place.
Well, no, there are physicists who believe that there was nothing at all, and that just in a flash or a second, microsecond, whatever, everything existed, you know, like the Big Bang.
Who cares, right? We're never going to be able to answer that question because we're never going to find the fossils. You know what I'm saying? They all got
right. It's not provable.
They all got blown up in the Big Bang, so we're never going to find the evidence of what happened the day before the Big Bang because that whole universe blew the fuck up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not provable. I just wonder, see, because that's an idea that I can't wrap my head around.
I know, but I can't wrap my head around forever either. So, I mean, an oscillating, let's say if it Big Bangs and it all collapses and it Big Bangs and all, what if it does that forever? I mean, that'll give you a headache too, because you're saying, what, it's been doing that forever? Forever? It's been doing it already forever? And it's going to do it forever for more? Another whole half forever?
Yeah, I think we just need to be okay with being agnostic about some of these things instead of, you know, it's like,
well, those things, I say take those things and forget it, you know, just throw them in the garbage can. We're not going to those questions. You're never going to get your head around infinity or the lack of it, right? Even infinity is a problem. So infinity or not infinity, both of them are shitty answers, right? The universe is forever or the universe started yesterday. Both answers suck.
Yeah, and I think the direction I wanted to go with this was that it bothers me how a lot of people, they just go based on, you know, you've heard people talk about how people use science as like a faith, where, you know, people can't understand physics. I think if you can't understand physics, then you don't need to declare your side on the argument. Oh, yes, there are black holes or something like this, or, you know, something like that. And so I think that's a big issue in the public because, you know, science plays a big role in how people, you know, approach their lives.
They could never let an evolutionist, for example, could never get away with what a physicist can get away with, right? Just coming up with this mathematical crap or some other, you know, he can't go sine theta. You know, he can't say sine theta. You know, he can't use that as an explanation of anything. So, that's where the science is so different, is that this whole reliance on mathematical models that are completely dependent on how well you write the formula. You know what I mean? And we've sort of learned with time that formulas always need little add-ons, right? Einstein added a little bit to Newton. I mean, they all need little add-ons to make them more perfect because there's more variables than we ever think there are, right? There's 10 variables instead of the 8 we accounted for. So we have to fix the formula to make it more perfect. And without those fixes, though, then you end up things like black holes. I'm just saying it's a mathematical possibility because there's no rule that says you can't go lower than this. You can't dig a well deeper than this. There's no... See, by my theory, right, because it's all matter and it's energy, you could never dig a well deeper than the diameter of an object, right? I mean, that would be as deep as the gravity well could possibly go, would be the diameter of the object. The thickness of the object, its density, is going to dictate the gravity. So there's no way, theoretically, to dig this forever hole because the density of the matter is going to require you to it's always going to have a radius you're always going to have to be obedient to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it just doesn't quite add up, does it? It doesn't.
Well, to me, it does. I'm just saying that until they show me compressed hydrogen, okay, I'm not buying it. Okay, show me some compressed hydrogen.
Yeah, make us a little mini black hole. Yeah.
Or even just make us a little quasar. Make us something that's supposed to be super incredibly. Give me a vial full of neutrons, stacked on top of each other.
Right, and I think until then, it's just here's a fun little idea, to play around with if you want. But I think people gotta take all that stuff with a grain of salt, and I think they're getting a little carried away these days. So.
Yeah, well, see, physics used to be particle physics, and now it's not. Now it's wavy fudge physics. So you can do anything you want with a wave, right? I mean, waves, you can make waves do anything. Just you can Heisenberg them right out of existence. Well, they even have particles now inside of atoms, right? What do they call them, that pop in and out of existence?
Quarks?
Virtual something. But they actually go to the other dimension, and then they pop into our dimension, and then they pop out, and then they pop in, and they pop out. Mm-hmm. I mean, sure, show me one. Show me one of these little popping fresh, whatever they are.
Well, you think if we found some cool stuff like that, it would change the way people think about everything. I mean, like if these guys really got it, they have to offer us more math.
If they show me the hard evidence, I'll concede it and I'll just give up and blow my brains out and say, fuck it, the world's too silly. Yeah. But I really just don't think it is. I think it gets simpler as you get smaller. The small universe gets dumber, not smarter. It gets less fancy, not fancier. There is a crude origin to all this shit, and physics has turned it the other way around. They put all the unicorns into the smallest spaces in the universe, so now we can't. How can you argue with we have a microcorn or whatever it is? Well, okay, I can't say it doesn't exist because there's no microscope in the world that can see them, but I'm pretty damn sure they don't.
Yeah. All right. Okay, I think that covers it.
That's the only way you can really
problem solved.
Black holes.
Yeah, well, no, I could go on to my theory of everything, of course, and I don't want to attempt to critique any element of it, but I mean, I do have a particle theory that explains gravity.
Could you do it in 10 minutes?
I can do it in 5 minutes. I think I can do you a quick version in 5 minutes.
Oh, that's better. That's even better.
Let's just say Einstein's is just a metaphor, right? Bent space is just a metaphor for the idea that this happens. Okay, the force gets 4 times stronger as I move half the distance. Half the distance, force is 4 times stronger. The bent space thing is just a metaphor for that. It explains this force. Okay, well, the same exact force can be explained by particles. Okay, that exist already in space. So just imagine that there's not just a few photons that you see. No, there's not this many photons. There's zillions of photons. Okay, for every photon you see, there's a zillion more in the space around everything, and they're all moving in different directions. And there's all the same number moving this way as this way as this way as this way. And so they're all these little microparticles, and the only difference they have between them and a photon is photons have a frequency. That is, the particle comes and another particle comes exactly the same amount of time, distance from it, and another one, so they have a wavelength. Gravity has no wavelength. That's why electrons don't detect it or absorb them, because they don't come as a pair. Photons can only be absorbed when they come as a pair. So it has to have a wavelength. It has to have a frequency between them for them to be absorbed by an electron. So the gravity is all out there, right? And it will create exactly the same inverse square rule. Okay, if you have a pressurized field of these microparticles, little BBs, think of them kinetically interacting, they will create a pressure. So when I put two things next to each other, the pressure coming from this side will get blocked by the object, be less pressure in between them, they'll be pushed into each other from the less pressure. Now if I take that simple idea and I say now let's polarize it, okay? Because we know light's polarized. So let's say the gravity is polarized. Well, now you have this concept where you can have on the north side of the north side of the magnet, it's getting hit by this force, but it's getting polarized. And so it's polarized to exactly the same thing that this north side is affected by. And so that's why the two north sides repel, is because now they're both creating polarized gravity that they're both sensitive to. Obviously, on the south pole, it would be exactly the opposite reaction, because now it's polarizing to a substance that doesn't see at all. So now the external force is stronger and it pushes the objects together. And because it's double and 0, and when you add 2 to 0, you get 2. And when you add 1 plus 1, you get 2. So it adds up to the same amount of force as gravity. That's why you don't notice any gravitational difference with magnetism, because it's exactly compensating. It's conservative. And so basically, then for time dilation, the simple argument is that all your matter is already made out of photons. It's already made out of things moving, these little gravitons caught in swirls. So, okay, electron is this kind of swirl. Proton is a bigger swirl, but swirling the opposite direction. Neutron, who the hell knows how it's swirling? Who cares? Okay? It's like a too complicated. All right? But they're all just swirls, and so their spin rate is going to be changed by what they absorb, right? So if it absorbs direction coming from one way, it'll end up spinning more in that direction. If it comes from the other way, it'll end up spinning less, because, you know, obviously it's always conservative forces, right? So it's all kinetic. And so the key thing that happens is time dilation explained by the basic mechanism that all your bits are already moving the speed of light. And they're already, all the little tiny pieces inside of you are already moving the speed of light. And so for your object, for your mass to move, when your object moves with a velocity, that means some percentage of your mass is already going in that direction, but most of your mass isn't. And so it has to be converted into going in that direction. So all the perpendicular, all the stuff going, like if I go outside to move with a velocity to my right, all the stuff moving inside of me perpendicular to that, it's going the wrong way. And obviously the stuff going the opposite way is going the wrong way. So my metabolism will end up slowing down. So if I was moving in a circle, if I was doing orbits, and I move that orbit to the right, well, if the orbit has to go to the right, it's going to orbit slower. So its atomic metabolism slows down. That's where they talk about muons. That's what's happening to them. Muon is a complex swirl. When it gets accelerated, it swirls slower, so it decays slower, so it irradiates slower, because now it's doing one clock cycle much slower because it's moving very fast in one direction. So that explains time dilation. And so I got magnetism, time dilation. I can do electricity too, but electricity is the same as magnetism, except it's a surface phenomenon because the electrons are moving on the surface of the object, and when they have acceleration, they polarize the field that goes through them, so it's always perpendicular. Whenever everybody talks about, a physicist talks about magnetism or electricity, they're always going to be talking about these perpendicular field forces. And that's why they're perpendicular, because they're going through a polarizing filter, and they're being polarized by the filter, and that's creating the force. So the force is photons. It's just polarized photons. So when Richard Feynman said virtual photons were the cause of the force, they don't have to be virtual. They are actual photons, and they're polarized. Okay, that's it.
Okay, so you still believe that?
Bravo!
Yeah, that was good. So you still believe that everything pretty much is photons, right? I mean, do you believe in classical particles, right?
Like they're not particles, right? They're swirls, right? So I'm saying,
okay, so that's what you're saying. You're saying it's the motion.
An electron would be, let's say, 1,000,000, and a proton would be 10 billion. Quanta. So we call these quantons, is what I've been using as a word, but who knows the right word to use is. I mean, the universal particle would be a quanton, but they obviously come in the form of photon, magneton, or electroton. Electroton is going to get me into some trouble, right? I guess I'll call it a volton. Maybe I'll call it a volton.
There was some comments here regarding the whole black hole thing, so I just wanted to read some of this off. So there's a ton of electromagnetic force moving around in empty space. We can see this in how plasma moves around in space. I don't know if that's relevant at all to the black hole argument.
Well, I mean, this dark energy, dark matter thing is a tricky one because, like I said, I don't think there is. I think it is much cleaner than we think it is, just because imagine all these particles, right? It's the other thing is these tremendous accelerations you gain once you do go into gravity wells and you actually did hit something. So if there was actually garbage out there, all this stuff would be hit by it all the time. Even us on Earth, look how safe it is here. We don't even get hit by like a heavy atom of something that came from outer space, right?
Yeah.
Because if we did, it would have an acceleration that would be like whatever, 58,000 miles a second or something when it hits you, which would be rather catastrophic even for a very small grain of sand going 28,000 miles a second is going to do some damage. So we don't even get grains of sand hitting us.
Yeah. Okay, I can see where you're coming from that perspective.
So it's got to be pretty clean out there, not pretty dirty.
Yeah. Otherwise, it seems things would behave differently.
Well, they'd be blowing up a lot more often. I guess my argument would be it would be catastrophic. And like, say if I throw a Pluto into the sun, I think the sun's probably going to blow up, right? Because this is going to blow a big freaking hole in the sun, right? If the sun gets impacted by something the size of Pluto going, 48,000 miles a second, it's going to probably make the sun supernova, right? I mean, it's going to go plowing right through the damn thing. So I'm just saying, wouldn't we expect there to be supernovas all the time? And they're kind of rare events.
All right.
I don't know exactly. I don't have all the physics for that. I'm just saying that if you take a dense object, even Pluto's pretty small. I'm just saying it's very dense, though. If you have a heavy object like that and throw it into the sun, I think it would catastrophically fuck the sun.
Yeah. Yeah, this stuff is just too complicated for me. It's fascinating, but I just don't. I don't have the answers, man, on this one.
Well, I'm not saying I'm not giving answers. I'm just giving a counter argument to dark energy. That's all I'm saying. There's reasons to say maybe that's not a rational answer because what's the consequence of creating this dark energy? Is that you have now a lot of mass in galaxies, and where's the evidence of these collisions, right? Because you have to assume collisions. You can't have all that mass and say, oh, nothing ever crashes into anything.
Okay. All right. How do you guys feel about moving on?
Sure.
My mind is short-circuiting. So
Yeah. Okay.
Let's move on.
All right. All right. So this will be interesting. So facing the world, accepting the ways of others. Now I know some of us here have some very negative perceptions of other people, and that's okay. So what I'm going to do is I want to talk about this from a direction where I spend a lot of time trying to help people who I see are acting negatively or destructively and trying to get them to see how to do things in a better way. And I end up finding that you just can't change people. They either have to develop properly or they've got to learn from their own mistakes. So what I find is, I just got to accept other people that have bad habits or who are destructive and just learn to live with it. It sucks, but you gotta learn to live with it.
Experience. Nobody's emailed you and said you completely changed my life. Blah 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 blah. Because I've gotten honestly, in reality hundreds. I mean, I was going to say 1,000, but who knows? Okay, but it's in the hundreds of messages from individuals telling me, I never saw it that way. You really made me see, blah blah blah. I've converted Christians. I've converted people to veganism. So talk does work. So it's not like you have to be born with it. I wasn't born with it. All right. I mean, it wasn't. I mean, there's certain events that happen in your life. When you're 13, this happens or that happens and this happens, and you get enlightened. I mean, I saw a couple of movies.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That shook my ground. So I'm just saying that I just don't like the idea of saying that this is an intractable problem when you can teach an old dog new tricks. It's just more difficult, right?
It's hard.
Really easy to brainwash a kid, okay? It's really easy to brainwash a kid. I just give him candy and keep saying, it's a particle universe, it's a particle universe. And he'll believe me, okay? Because I'll seduce him into it. But yes, it's a little more work when you take the hard asses who believe in magic unicorns and I'm going to convince them it's a particle universe. Well, now I got a harder job. But
okay.
It's a good job.
Okay. So Jamal, did you want to add something to that?
No, it's just I completely agree with what you're saying. Like, you can't change anyone. You really can't change. They have to learn themselves. Like, as much as you can say, oh well, that's wrong, that's not good, this, that, and the other. It ultimately isn't going to be. That's not what's going to change. What's going to ultimately change them? What's ultimately going to change them?
Since you're saying, like, even a movie like Schindler's List or something, you're saying it didn't soften the heart of a single anti-Semite.
Maybe on the right day, it just blew somebody away. The right day.
Well, I'm just saying, you realistically think that you cannot construct an experience. Okay, all interactions are experiences, right? So I'm just giving you a new experience by talking to you or saying words.
Yeah.
I'm saying this experience is just as valid as you slipping on a banana peel. Okay, I mean. Enlightenment can come from a physical event that takes place. It can come from a movie. It can come from a conversation. It can come from your grandmother dying. But I'm just saying there's nothing excluding conversation as a means of experience. So it gives people experiences.
Yeah, but here's an extreme example. So Japanese people, they are unwilling to have conflictual conversations with you. And so they're sort of trained to shy away from conflict and to totally avoid any argument or conversation about anything conflictual. So
because their language sucks, right? Their language is so bad.
It's because of the language.
You can't have an argument because the argument will last forever because no one can understand what the other guy said.
Yeah, essentially, yeah. You have to be so vague in what you're saying.
You don't have to have the argument in Japanese.
Yeah,
Exclusion. I'm sure the exclusion rule says Japanese people can have English arguments.
Right.
Well, yeah, but it's also sociological. Like they're like taught. Like, for example, if I can speak English with a Japanese person, and I might say something a little strong, like maybe something political or something like that, and they just go running. They don't want to have those kind of conversations. So so in that case, I think we kind of just have to accept them and just let them be themselves, because that's like a really difficult wound,
Well, I don't know if I fully buy your argument. Okay, I mean, the Japanese people, they've learned to be very American. So I mean, this might be true in 1940, but they really have evolved quite a bit. And they're on the forefront of a lot of research now and different things. So I mean, they've obviously gotten up to speed on these subjects. So I think they know what the arguments are. Even theoretical physics. They're doing a lot of physics work over there now.
Yeah, they're doing some. Who I'm talking about is like your average Joe. The average person in Japan. It really is.
They work all the time. Yeah. They don't have time to have any knowledge on any of these subjects, do they really? I mean,
no, you're right. You're right.
When they got fortune, they can read a fortune cookie, but they don't got time for anything else.
Yeah.
Well, they're living by bar rules, Like in a bar, you never bring up politics or whatever, I wanted to tie in, if you don't mind, the deal I was talking about, Rob Ford. Right? Mayor of Toronto. Okay. When I first heard about him, all I heard was all the negative stuff about him, right? About like he had these videos of him doing crack and all this other stuff while he was in power, right? And then I started watching some of the actual interactions that he had, as a statesman, right? And he was really good. His people really loved him for the stuff he did for the citizens, right? But he still was like a crazy party animal when he wasn't doing that, So it really did change my opinion of him because I had all this negative spin that was coming off of the radio shows and that out of Canada, and then you look into it and look at some of the good stuff he did, and he did a lot of great stuff for his people. But he's one of those people that it's like everything he did compromised every other thing he did. So it's kind of hard to really...
Well, I mean, hard to take that seriously, though, right? I mean, as a commentary, this is as high as your expectations go, is that, I want the guy who's on the job 2% of the time. 90% of the time he's shagging drugs or pussy. I mean, that doesn't. You're not being very optimistic if that's your definition of a good leader.
Well, but he was better than his opponents. That's what was funny about it, is he was better than the people he was going against, you know. So
well, I mean, the overt guys who are just doing the job for, well, I mean, obviously he's probably in it for the fame and the money and the chicks too. So it's all the same kind of bullshit. It's all an ego,
right?
Right. Well, they haven't got plan one, like with Obama, right? Talked all this big talk. What was his plan? Guantanamo Bay. What do you mean? Oh, we have to relocate those people? Oh no, fuck it. I don't want anything to do with that. I don't want next door to me, right? No, we're not putting those guys up next to the White House. No.
Right. Yeah. But then you see the alternative to Obama, at the time, and it's like.
Well, it turns out, right? That's the irony, that yes, the dog shit would have been better. Yes, it would have been better to pick up dead Ronald Reagan and have Nancy Reagan, move his skull, and that would have been better than Obama. So.
Yeah.
How do we get on that?
So we're trying to accept other people, because you can't just make someone I can't just this person has this problem and then be like, oh, here, this is how you should be, and then they'll just fix like that. It's a much more difficult process. So we got to let go and kind of maybe you can help somebody out a little bit. You can offer somebody some information. But it can't be a thing where you're just like, I got to change this person. It'll make you crazy.
No, that's all nice, gooey talk. But because let's say you had $10 and you have a homeless guy that's got, let's say, AIDS, and then you have a homeless guy who's got a drinking problem, and you got a homeless guy who's a gambling addict, and you got a homeless guy. I'm just saying you're going to have to figure out which guys you just got to unhook and say, well, that would be a waste of money. Right, I could throw $10 at him forever, and that ain't going to go anywhere. So I got to find one guy out of these bums that if I give him $10, they'll actually turn it into some sort of progress.
Right.
So,
you can be logical in your compassion.
Yeah.
And they're so far out, like Muslims or something. I mean, they're so far gone that how much time are you going to invest in them when would you really you could do a lot better trying to convert the Christians. You know what I'm saying? There's no point in wasting your breath on a Muslim.
Yeah.
And just in you're just talking about in your everyday life, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm speaking in very
people you run into,
way.
I mean, most of the time, I don't know, for me, I'm just thinking about it, most of the time it's not really worth it. I mean, unless, I don't know, the only time is if I see someone, if it's just someone that believes something stupid or that I think is stupid, I'm not going to, I used to argue with everyone, but I don't know, it's just not worth the energy because they're not hurting anybody. If it's someone that's hurting themselves or hurting someone else, then I would take the energy to try to change their mind.
Exactly.
Here's a quick thought experiment. All right, let's say there's a 1,000,000-to-1 lottery that creates cure for some obscure but meaningful disease. Let's say it affects 100 people and you could cure it, but there's a 1 in a million chance. So if you throw your $100 at there's only a 1 in a million chance you're going to win. Or you could spend the $100 on Band-Aids today. That would put little coverings on wounds and give people a little bit of instantaneous comfort today. So you have a chance to cure something in the future that would be forever, theoretically, or you can buy $100 worth of Band-Aids.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying, what would you do? Do you go for the big, curing malaria? Do you treat malaria by trying to find a cure, let's try to kill the mosquitoes or stop them from being infectious? Do we spend all our money there, or do we buy people mosquito nets now? Do we stop malaria from happening to a few people now, or do we try to spend the money on the future, which would be much bigger, theoretically, right?
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
The future could be very, very big, so isn't that the place you really should be investing the money? So these questions really come down to how can you maximize your effect on people? And so my argument would be, on a personal level, you can't do too much, but maybe you could make a viral YouTube video. Maybe there's a 1 in 1,000, maybe there's a 1 in 10,000 chance that you could do that. But what if you did do that? You know what I'm saying? And you could affect thousands of people, with the same power you wasted on that one.
No, I've thought about that. Like if you take someone I don't know, Steve Jobs or something, and think about how he could have best used his time. If he had used all his time that he had spent developing Apple, volunteering, at a soup kitchen or something, we would think that is a bad use of his time in the long run, because he was a, it's he did more good for the world developing his company rather than, you know, doing.
Right. Well, none of them use their power for anything good, right? I mean, even the not evil Google, you know, doesn't do anything really productive or anything to empower the working man or do anything. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't. They're not doing anything in any kind of socialist way. You know what I'm saying? Any kind of way, a public domain-y kind of. You know, yes, they've made some of their software public domain, but we know that's all just seed money. You know what I'm saying? They give you the foundation for free so they can sell you the Empire State Building to build on it. You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah. No, I was just thinking like there are certain like your example about the lottery and everything. Like, yeah, we can think like I've thought about this like just in certain things. Like, yeah, is my time better spent? Because sometimes I feel guilty like not doing more whatever like volunteer work or something like good for my local community. But then I'm like, I don't know if I don't really feel passionate about that. Maybe there's something else that I could be doing, spending my time at that in the long run will affect people's lives for the better, you know, rather than doing kind of the obvious going out and volunteering.
Well, that's the thing, is the obvious part, right? Because that's the part I've sort of learned with time is that the part that's real hard work is the construction of the rational policy, the policy that'll actually be efficient or that'll fix Social Security or do so. And that just takes time, right? You got to take time to think about it and the scratching of the numbers on a piece of paper and figuring out, you know, psychological profiles and doing all. So, I mean, it's the irony is that, but in a way, if somebody took the time they wasted in soup kitchens and applied that time to studying real policy solutions, you know, then they could create the cure for the disease, so to speak, that I'm talking about. The cure is going to come through quiet work, not the showy work where you get gratification instantly, you know, by you saying, oh, I'm being helpful, because it's obvious. See the smile on their face? Where the real hard job, nobody's going to be smiling when you're doing that work. You're not going to get any reward unless you win. You know, unless you find the solution, you're going to get nothing. You know, no sense of accomplishment, no sense of doing good, no reward whatsoever. So that's the real, in my opinion, that's the real soldier. The real soldier is the guy who's not going to, nobody's going to be applauding. Nobody even knows what he did, you know, kind of.
Yeah. But it's just interesting to think about, like, what is, just on a personal level, like, what is my best use of my time and abilities and resources, you know, like to maximize the well-being of other people, you know. It's just, I don't know, it's just interesting to think about. It's like a impossible equation to solve. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out
I'm just giving you a little bit of, you know, I am an older guy, so I'm just saying what experiences has taught me is that thinking is the most important thing you can do. As funny as that sounds, but thinking about it is where the big answer will come from. That's where the cure will come. Is where, you know, you think about what makes a policy work, what makes it fail, what. I mean, defining the right path is the most important thing. Not walking it, defining it. Okay, that's the most important thing you can do, is find the road for the future to walk on.
Yeah.
Intriguing.
Well said. Well said.
Well, and then there's a lot of comments on give a man a fish and you feed him for a day, teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime.
Yeah.
Well, if I may interject for a minute, it's just the whole fact that I think I see what the kind of the argument is in terms of, like, do you want to waste your time on people who are not going to want to excel themselves to a place of where they can succeed? Because they mention this, even in the Bible they mention this, and you see this, especially where I'm from. Like, I'm familiar with gang culture, and they do this a lot, actually. They'll weed out all the weaklings and keep all the strong ones who could take care of themselves without the gang's, how can I put it, without the gang's influence or interference or whatnot. So, I mean, the concept is, do you want a army full of, you know, a bunch of dumbasses who are incompetent, or do you want just the few special elite who know how to, you know, ride with you, and then you have to conscrew on whether is it worth teaching. Well,
that's yeah. I think that you're talking about two subjects. You're talking about building an army and trying to fix, and the two different, you know, what you're trying to fix with your army versus the conversation about, you know, what the army is supposed to do, like kill Hitler, or the idea of how do I make my army. So those are two different subjects. So how do you make a good army? Yeah, I would agree with you that you got to do some psychological profiling. But ironically, the Bible obviously is hypocritical about everything, right? Because as much as the Bible says one thing, it says, waste all your time chasing after that one retarded sheep, right? Go ahead, kill your wife, have her die, let everything go to hell, let all the other sheep get eaten by wolves, so you can go chase that stupid, lost motherfucking idiot.
Yeah.
Good point.
Well, yeah.
Well, yeah, competition, I think, is underrated. It's a value that nowadays is underrated in the mainstream, I guess. And I think that kind of ties in with the last point. That you have to have some standards and some competition, something to adhere to or to strive for, to reach any goals, to keep any cohesion in the society.
Well, I don't know if I buy that argument. I mean, we're obviously competitive organisms, and we have to fight against that wherever we can. I don't think we need to encourage any of that. I think all of those competitions just end up being destructive, like gambling and everything else. They just end up being silly addictions. So I would rather I'd rather get rid of sports, the Olympics, get rid of the lottery, get rid of all this bullshit. And
I'm saying competition in general.
Force people to, do this whole. Yes, I'm going to start realizing I have neighbors, and maybe I'll even find out what their name is and find out, what their history is and if they need anything, and maybe I'll try to be a human instead of being this,
Right. Well, you argue, and that's
vicariously living the, triple ring saga. Everybody thinks they're a Jedi now, and they all think they're
right.
Bullshit, and they're really not.
Oh.
Yeah, I get to pause for a minute.
Okay. All right, guys. Anything else on that topic?
Well, yeah, I was kind of like gonna second what he said about competition. Just like, I don't know, I don't think it's necessary. Like, I've never been motivated by competition. I've always just kind of, I don't know, like if I'm really into something, I'm going to work hard. Regardless of whether I'm competing against someone or not. It's kind of like, I don't know, but that's a difference between people that are like intrinsically motivated and people that are more motivated by extrinsic factors.
Right. You could apply it to many different things, right? Like if you're learning music and that, right? There's going to be a point if you're playing in clubs or playing in, jazz or whatever, where you'll have to compete with somebody just to learn certain things, right? And it can be a motivating factor. It can be a good thing, but it can be overdone. It can stifle creativity, as well as inspire it. Right?
Yeah, I just know in myself it just tends to stifle it, but that's just me. I mean, that's just my personality.
Well, I was going to say that the majority of people who are in sports, I'm not saying they're like dumb or anything like that, but primarily in like boxing and UFC, they rely heavily on their physical attributes rather than logic, because they probably feel are let me end the bullshit. All right, they probably are not as bright as most other people. Okay.
You mean athletes in general?
No, not athletes in general. Just in terms of, for some people, they'll feel like sports is the only way out of a certain situation, like out of a bad childhood or something like that. They won't see a certain constituents to go into the field of being logical, because there's really not enough to bring in terms of bringing people's eyeballs to logic. Eyeballs are locked on what people tend to do competition-wise in terms of sports. I'm not like I said, I'm not saying, because obviously there's a lot of people who have to go to school and college before they, go to that next level, and I think that's a great, wonderful idea. But the fact of the matter is that a lot of people are not always going to choose the latter. Like if we just got rid of sports, people would still find a way to compete with each other on some level. So
yeah,
human beings innately are pretty destructive. I mean, I'm just throwing that out there. So I figured that all this sports and internet and this kind of stuff kind of keeps people in check in a way, because I'd rather have people call me an asshole online than want to do something to me in real life. And I'd rather we keep it online than anything else. But I'd rather not do any of that at all. I'd rather just keep a civilized conversation, so I just kind of avoid the people who bring the nonsense.
Well,
And that's
here,
just,
here's a cultural argument. Okay, I'm just saying that I don't think this is all cultural. So I mean, if I think we do raise each other in a different way, then we won't need these outlets. So I'm just saying that you can look at all the cultures all over the world and how different people are raised in their cultures. Like even the Asian cultures, they have honor codes. They didn't even need cops, for Christ's sakes, until they became Americanized, right? I mean, because you couldn't lose face. Your whole family lost its status if you did something to transgress against the society. I mean, there was a consequence, and everybody kind of grew into that, and everybody kind of lived a life where, yeah, okay, I get it. No hookers, no this, no that. Okay, I don't need all that. Well, I'm just saying that I think it's something that you're maturated into those standards. So I'm just saying I think we could demand more from ourselves than lottery tickets and gambling. I mean, we look like kind of bummy whores, in my opinion.
I see exactly what you're saying. Actually, I actually do.
Okay, well, I think it's time for the logic quiz.
And I'm actually got to head out.
Hello.
I gotta go eat dinner. Sorry.
All right.
All right.
All
right.
Any math? Math questions?
No.
See y'all later.
See you later.
Dave.
Bye. Okay. Is everyone ready for the logic puzzle?
All ready.
Yes, we are all ready.
Ready.
Okay.
I got my Google search engine ready to go.
Okay, so you may or may know this logic puzzle, and audience, you can join in as well. So
in the comments section.
yes. Okay. So the puzzle is this, right? There is a reality TV show called Blue Forehead Room, and basically what happens is they get 100 logicians, not magicians, logicians. From all over the world, different parts of the world, to come on this show. And what usually happens is they paint their foreheads different colours, and they put them in this room, in this dark room, and have them sit in a circle. And what they tell them is that at least one of their foreheads is painted blue. And the second thing they tell them is that if they find out, without communicating to each other, that one of their foreheads is painted blue, if one of them finds out that their forehead is painted blue, that person has to leave the room. And then the third thing they're told is that they're all perfect logicians. Their logic is infallible. Okay? So my question to you now is, what happens when they're put into the room and all their foreheads are painted blue?
Then nobody says anything and they stay in the room, right? Unless they want to leave the room.
They all get up and leave the room because they all got a blue. They all found the guy with the blue forehead.
No,
but
they don't know. No, they don't know that their forehead is painted blue. They all their foreheads, all 100 of their foreheads have been painted blue.
And so, they can't see anybody else's forehead.
The light's turned on. I forgot to mention that
the light is turned on.
Yeah, the light is turned on, and then in that time that the light's turned on, they have to deduce who has the blue forehead.
They all have blue forehead. Well, no, this doesn't make. Sorry, if they all have blue forehead.
So can they see each other and communicate with each other?
They can't communicate with each other. They can't talk to each other, but they can see each other.
Okay.
Yeah, so they all get up and leave because everybody has a blue forehead.
They leave, but why? Why do they all leave? How do they all leave, though?
But do they want to leave the room? Is that the point? Or do you want to stay? I thought they wanted to stay.
Well, there's one guy left behind at the end, right? Because everybody left before he saw their foreheads, and so he's confused.
Really?
This sounds like it has like a trick to it, like it does.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he said it wrong. That's the trick.
I've not said it wrong.
Well, they leave by the door, right? Is that?
They do leave. You're right. You're right. They do leave, but how do they leave? How do they leave? Because all of them have blue foreheads. Now they're told that one of them only has a blue forehead, but they've done it. They've painted their all 100 of them now have their foreheads painted blue.
they leave putting their "I'm going to punch that motherfucker."
And every
they're putting on their "I'm going to punch that."
Okay. So every time the light is turned on, they have to deduce. They deduce who has the blue forehead, but they obviously can't, can they? That's a big clue there.
Right.
Wait.
Because it's obvious. It doesn't require deduction.
Well, didn't you say that the light was turned on to begin with, or it's on and off now, right?
It'll go on and off now. So I'll give you a big clue there. The clue is the light, essentially.
Okay, so the guy on the light switch is the one that...
It's blue, so nobody can see the blue because it's a blue light. Okay, that's it, right?
No.
I like his answer. I don't know. If you okay, so you're in a room and it's not lit up all the time, right? So every time, are you throwing the switch for every person that's in there?
No, someone outside is throwing the switch. So the 100 registers are put in there, and then the light switch is turned on. Usually, they all have different coloured foreheads, and one of them has their forehead painted blue. And then in that time that the light is switched on, one of them obviously would deduce that their forehead is painted blue because everyone else's forehead is painted differently, and they would have to leave the room. But this time, what they've done is they've thrown them off and painted all their foreheads the same colour, blue. So I'm saying what happens and why.
And what does the blue signify again?
It just marks them. That's all. It just identifies their gives them a number. So it could be numbers they're all put on their heads. It doesn't matter. The color doesn't matter. It's just an identifier. So it's like they all be numbered 1 to 10, and whoever had the number 10, the first person to identify that would walk out of the room. So we're just saying all of them have the number 10 on their head. They all see that everybody else has a 10 on their head. They get up and they leave. Okay, what's the fucking answer? But they just get up and they leave, right?
I'm thinking either like one of them told them all to okay, we're all
can't communicate. They can't.
All right. Well, fuck. Oh, I'm out.
They can see each other. They can obviously see.
Or maybe they blink. Maybe they blink at each other.
They wouldn't do that.
It wouldn't matter anyway. They already know everybody's got a blue head. All they had to do was identify a blue head. They found one. They leave. The end.
That's not the answer, though.
So what is the answer? Because I'm lost. I'm
lost.
Okay. So what happens is they leave when the light, when the light is turned on for the 100th time, because it's to do with peripheral vision. If you're in a room and your forehead is painted blue and everybody else's forehead is painted blue, you can only see 99 other people, right? You can't see that your forehead is painted blue.
So
you can't see that.
So you're not counting yourself. So you stay. So that means all 4 of them stay. So none of them leave.
All of them leave. You're right that all of them leave, but they leave when the light turns off 100 times because, obviously, when the light turns on once and then there is a person with a blue forehead, they would leave, right? And if there was a person with only one person with a blue forehead, that person would leave, right? And everybody else is a different color. Because they're all painted blue, what they have to say, right, okay, I can't, everyone else is painted blue, like one person would say, okay, my head, everyone else, 99, everybody else's forehead is painted blue, but so either mine is blue or another color. So they would be confused with that. So they wouldn't leave the room.
I've never tried to actually stick my head up my own ass, but I bet this is exactly what it feels like. I'm not betting.
My head is painted explosion.
You're damaging my neurons for no good reason.
It's logic. It's logic.
This doesn't make. No, it's not. There's nothing logical.
It is logical. There is something logical about it. There is something logical about it.
I want the fuck out. The end. It's not complicated.
You wouldn't.
Tell us.
Turning on 100 times.
You gotta tell us the answer. You have got to tell us the answer because
you gotta tell us the answer. Yeah.
That is what the answer is.
You already told
me
me the
100
answer.
light.
I'm saying it's a head up your ass.
They leave after the 100th light. That is the answer. They leave after the 100th light because they use the light. They assume, okay, every time the light turns on, someone would have deduced that their forehead is painted blue. So they just say, okay, we'll do that 100 times.
Well, if there's 100 people in the room, wouldn't it only be 99 times?
Wouldn't it only be one time? They all see with the same light.
One of them doesn't know.
Not for everybody.
One of them does not know that their forehead is painted blue.
Who cares? No. I don't care what color my forehead is.
Okay, the guy outside with the light doesn't know that his forehead is painted blue, right? Because he has no observer.
You don't understand. I know it really like.
All right, well, never mind. If going on any further, I'm going to start throwing rocks. I mean, this is try again. Try something else that's supposed to be logical, because that wasn't.
It is logical, because if you're one person, you see 99 people with blue foreheads, but you will have to say, okay, my forehead is either blue or a different color, but I don't know that, so I can't leave the room. No, because I'm a logician. I have to have a valid reason to leave the room.
I'm allowed to leave the room if I have a blue forehead, aren't I?
Yes, but you don't know that because you can't see yourself.
Right, but it doesn't matter. I already saw one blue forehead. That's all I had to do was find one, and I'm out.
Oh, I understand now. So because you have to use logic.
Yes, because they're logicians.
So you have to check everybody to see, and then you're like, oh, it's me, right?
Yep, I must have a blue forehead then, if everybody else has. Because after the 100th flight, you would just say, oh, well, everyone must have a blue forehead, because every time the light turns on, usually one person would leave. They would deduce that they have a blue forehead. So they do that. They'd imagine that happening 100 times.
So no one would leave in 100 times.
They would. They'd all leave.
Well,
wait. They all have blue foreheads. Because they all have blue foreheads.
Yeah, but they can't observe it.
Whole continuity problem with this, because apparently they all can't see with the same light. So when you turn the switch on the first time, why wouldn't they all get up and leave?
Because one of them would be confused.
Well, they can't communicate that they have blue foreheads, right? No matter what, they can't communicate. So no one would go anywhere.
Exactly. But
right? You can see their foreheads. You don't have to communicate. You can see theirs. You just can't see yours. This is the only one you can
right.
All right. Yeah.
But you can't tell them that their foreheads are blue.
Yeah, you can't tell anyone that their foreheads are blue. So I wouldn't know if I was that one person and I saw 99 other people. I wouldn't know that my forehead is painted blue, as well. I wouldn't know that.
But I'm watching the other blue-headed forehead guys.
I couldn't know that.
If I've seen the blue-headed forehead of those guys leaving, then I know they don't care about your stupid rule.
They won't. It's such a weird.
Nobody can communicate that they see somebody with a blue forehead, right?
Yes, exactly.
So even if they notice somebody else with a blue forehead, they can't communicate that. So everyone assumes that they can't go.
Everybody's head. The point is, you already can see everyone.
Yes, but
you can't communicate it though.
Who cares? Why do I need to communicate it? I don't give a fuck what it's in the room.
They also see 99 people in their periphery, don't they? They will always see 99 people in their periphery.
Why does that have to be 99 people? Why can't it be just 4 people? Or like 3 people? Or like 10 people?
Yeah, why you got to do that?
Yeah, why, and you have no coherent rule about what color I'm allowed to leave the room if my head is a certain
Because you're told that.
What the hell?
What color does my head have to be for me to leave the room?
Blue, because you're told that. You are told that. But they've tricked you.
All right.
Two people have to have a blue forehead. The person I saw with a blue forehead plus me.
But see, you can't communicate it to them, and they can't communicate it to you.
To you. And
exactly. Well, I'm just saying, so there's no point. There's no logic to escape. All right, all you do is watch other people cheat. Because if somebody gets up and leaves, they don't know
they won't leave though, will they? No
Well,
one
if I
else
thought-
can leave though, because they'll always see 99 people in their
They
parade.
have to cheat to leave.
The first time, they won't.
The first guy who leaves has to cheat.
Okay, first off, this is what I do. I find a battle buddy, okay? And when we go into the room, we're gonna set like a little rules and perimeters. Like if I have like a red dot on my head, he's gonna blink 5 times. If I have a blue dot, he's gonna blink 10 times.
Cheating.
Is that cheating? That's
That's
cheating?
That's cheating! You can't
Okay.
do that.
All right, fine.
Cheating.
I can't believe this is confusing.
Can we sneeze?
No.
Okay.
Well, you could sneeze, but you couldn't sneeze to signify that your forehead is painted. Oh, that person. You can't go, achoo, your forehead's painted, like as if saw that.
So there's no solution, right?
All right,
Is that
so-
what
There
you're
is
saying?
a solution because they do it. Because it's weird because they do it 100. They do it 99 other times. So they'd use the light switch because every time the light is switched on, they deduce that their forehead is painted blue.
Is this some
they
kind of
do that-
special
They don't
military?
deduce,
or-
they just assume, they guess. It's not a deduction. They just said, well, I'm just going to figure my head's blue. I'm going to get up and get out the door first because
But
you're
you
gonna
wouldn't do that because you don't know
Whatever the
that.
damn
You
price-
can't be yourself.
You're figuring you got a 50-50 chance. I'll take a 50-50 chance I'm right and I get a bigger Twinkie.
Okay. All right. Good quiz. Yeah. All right.
Oh,
Okay.
God.
Yeah,
Good
that was
job,
fun.
Tom.
Yeah, you
That
want
was
to include
awesome.
that in all of these because that was really fun. Yeah.
Oh, God.
More of that, please.
Are you gonna be okay, Gary? You're right.
I don't know. It's
Still pull through.
damage.
So
So
they-
you can only shake something so hard and something will break.
Don't break, Gary. It'll be
We
okay.
know the
Shake it,
official
don't
answer.
break it.
So everyone knows the official answer is they leave after the 100th light. The light turns on 100 times.
After a
Alright.
gigantic electric bill. We got it.
Yes, after
Say we
100
all
times.
I say we
100 times the
all
light switches on.
that
They all
is
turn.
officially
Hey.
the stupidest logical puzzle ever composed in the history of stupid human beings.
Hey,
Okay.
you know that reminds
Okay,
me
let's
of the
move
next.
on.
Let's move on.
That
Let's move
reminds me of the
on.
next topic. What was the next topic?
Please put like fat men on bridges again or something. Because
Okay. I think this is an excellent hangout for Gary to be here because all of my topics are kind of like touchy-feely. So it's a great time for you to be here, Gary.
Oh,
sensitive.
God.
Yeah, Gary, yes. Okay, all right. So dealing with stress caused by unhealthy or psychologically damaged people. So I am directly associated with a lot of people who are kind of like self-destructive a little bit.
Come on, man,
You know,
I'm right here.
aggressive, angry people.
Yeah, I'm very angry.
And so let's discuss some strategies for dealing with that. So how do you guys deal with it, like personally? How do you deal with people who are...
Run
YouTube.
away. Run away.
Okay, so
Yeah,
that's the first one. Run away.
Honestly, because I was
They're going to get their crazy cooties on you. I mean, I've been there and done the whole alcoholic thing, and they will run you over in the end. So just run the fuck away.
Okay, great advice. So number 1, run away.
I was basically thinking about doing some video like this in the future. Basically, like when you come across these trolls and things online, don't pay it any mind, honestly, because quite frankly, it should be the norm. You're not going to come across these people in real life, and that kind of leads me to my main point: is that where else can you really go to kind of get your venting out and your anger out? There's really nowhere else you can go. You can't go, many places where you could, fuck it, and do all that. And the number one thing that people want to do whenever they see you act crazy is, oh, you're bitching and complaining online. And it's funny because these people are bitching and complaining online about you bitching and complaining online. So it's like an inception almost. But it's like, where else do you go? Where else are you supposed to go to like get the frustration and the anger? Like we mentioned earlier, human beings are, well, I mentioned earlier, human beings are, pretty destructive, self-destructive, all kinds of vile shit going through their head, and where else are they supposed to get it out?
Yeah. And, well, I'd like to offer one. So a way people can help deal with this is to do a lot of individualized activities. So, you know, if you like to run or swim or something like that, doing these individualized activities help people feel like they have more control over themselves, and so other people aren't affecting them as much.
Yeah.
So, that's something I'd encourage people to do. Find some individualized activities to participate in.
Or puzzles or video games, right? So yeah, you could buy them board decks of cards to play with. I didn't know the question was, what do you find to entertain uselessly fucked up retards? So yeah, you go to the toy store, go to the toy store and buy them a lot of junk so they can't hurt anybody else because they're too busy playing with their toys. So yeah, you just giving them enough toys so they stay out of trouble.
Yeah.
Okay, I get the question now. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, well, it's about, so I wanted to talk about how we as people who don't do well, like people naturally don't do well with other people if they're not at the same wavelength as them in terms of their chaotic nature, you know, wild and crazy and mean and angry type people. So if I'm a little more docile, so something that I could do is I could run. So what I do is I like to run to help alleviate myself from people that are like that, because I deal with them quite frequently. So something that helps me.
Well, the argument was you use stress as the premise for the argument. In a sense, though, stress is, you know, I don't have as negative view of stress as a lot of other people.
I figured to say that.
I think you need to stress yourself to keep yourself healthy, in a sense. So stress, in a sense, keeps your, you know, you got to get angry. It's like you got to struggle with life a little bit to keep your arteries, you know, limber and to keep things. So in a sense, you should find life frustrating or people frustrating now and then just to keep yourself alive. In a sense, it's healthy. It's like exercise. You know, stress is
emotional exercise.
Well, I'm just saying it is, in a sense, you know, it keeps you in the game too. So but I'm just saying, as soon as you make it personal, though, it does get a lot more complicated. You know, when there's emotions involved with personal people, and that's all I meant about running away. Is that often, you know, as much as you want to help somebody, they might consume a real piece of you in the process. You know, they're like a dog. They might bite you in a place you don't want to get bitten. You know.
Good. Good comments. Anybody else?
Yeah. Well, the thing is like, I think a lot of people, I know I go through this. A lot of people go through these phases where things are running really smooth. And then you have these cycles where everything falls apart, right? And then you kind of get it together, you know, and get control of things again. But if you have things under control for too long of a time, at least I find it gets really boring, right? So sometimes you have to embrace that chaos, or sometimes you have to engage other people that you normally wouldn't, or try to get into their head, and you can always learn something from it in the process. But there are situations where you can't do that. You know, it depends on you know, like in criminal situations when you have psychiatrists, whatever, psychologists trying to figure out what's in somebody's head when they're a mass murderer or whatever. It's like there's only so much use that you can get from that information, you know, for the risk involved in getting that information. But just on a one-on-one basis, working with people who are intransigent or they don't get along with you or whatever, you know, I try to work with them when I can. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes you do have to run away, you know.
But isn't, you know, I think I would argue that the thing that gets people in trouble is unreasonable expectations, you know, lack of risk aversion even. You know, they get some notion in their head and they can't live without this idea, like I have to go buy the golden Twinkie or whatever it is, right? And
right.
Have to have it, and then they'll compromise, you know, their very welfare, their health, they'll drive drunk, they'll do something incredibly stupid, has these implications, and these are the kind of people I find that are the most destructive and the most dangerous. These people who you just can't get them to understand that your desire is just as controllable as anything else in your life. You know what I'm saying? As a mechanism.
Right.
If you temper that, you have so much more power than try to control the external world, because you're not going to take away the cop that's going to bust you for drunk driving.
Exactly.
And take away the necessity where, oh yeah, to save 5 minutes, I'm going to or to save the inconvenience of, you know. And it's that lack of risk aversion that I just, you know, if I had life to live over, I love the idea of having disciplined habits. I wish I had acquired more of them in terms of, having to retrain myself in terms of, I think it does you a lot of good to have some discipline and to be very wary of chaos.
Oh yeah. I mean, we've all done stupid things in the past, and it's well, I'm guessing we all have, right?
I definitely have.
And there's like two types of responsibility with that. There's a responsibility you have for yourself, right, for your own actions and keeping it together, and then there's a responsibility that you take on for other people, like if you're in their company, or you might have that one friend that wants to push a limit all the time, right? And most of my friends that are like that are dead from their habits like that, right? And sometimes you have to be that person, that party pooper or whatever.
Well, I'm just saying that's just one thing I've just kind of learned over life is just experience with people. My experience with people. It's just that's what I've learned is the biggest danger is this whole idea that desire is your enemy if you don't have it under control. Some people just have to go to Atlantic City, or they have to do this, or I have to jump out of an airplane, or I have to do some silly thing. And in hindsight, they always are going to be left like everybody the day after Christmas saying, what was all that shit about?
Right.
Even after sex, you know what I'm saying? What the hell?
Exactly.
Well, how did I do that? I mean, that doesn't make any sense.
But see,
you're going to do it again. But my point is, you really do have this clearer vision, in hindsight. And after you go through that a few times, and certainly seeing it with other people, you say, Jesus Christ, it's just so stupid that when you think of all the stupid things you do, you can understand if you think about why you did it, that the reason doesn't deserve the risk. The risk you took for the stupid reason was just ludicrous math.
Oh yeah, or no reason at all, And the thing is too, though, the flip side of that, and I'm not really arguing against what you said because I agree with that for the most part. But you have, I think most people have these memories of stupid stuff that they did, and later on, when they're more calmed down or whatever, you might look at that and you might say, wow, that was really fun, whatever, but I'll never do that again, that kind of thing. So like with life, part of what makes it worth living, and I know that you don't take the position that life is worth living, but one of the things that makes it worth living are these chaotic kind of stupid things that we do, just as well as having the control aspect, having a well-balanced, controlled life too.
Well, let me put it this way. I think life is like riding a bicycle or something. You can do it well, you can do it badly, and if you do it well, you'll have a nice time, and if you don't do it well, you're going to have a really rough time. You're going to get banged up and cracked skulls and all that kind of crap. So there's a certain precision to this game we're playing, and you have to play it psychologically with some kind of precision. I'm just saying the people who have the most trouble in life are really sloppy riders of their mental bicycle.
Do you take positivity into account, not like the secret kind of viewing, but just like, like what you said in terms of like you can either have a shitty time or you can have a positive time. So even if I'm having a shitty time, can I still have a positive time or a positive outlook?
Depends on what you're trying to do. If you're trying to be productive, then you're doing something that usually involves work and unpleasantness and being helpful and all that crap can be a pain in the ass. So you're not going to have a very good time feeding some old woman soup or something. You know what I'm saying? It's just, you're doing the right thing, but man, this sucks. And then cleaning old people diapers or something. It's very productive work, but it's not going to be fun. You're not going to have a good time. So I guess I'm sort of focused on trying to maximize the function of being himself. So I do a lot of things in my life that aren't too pleasant. Some exercises and some activities I get involved, like even the physics thing. It is kind of obnoxious to have to learn crap, I don't find it fun necessarily.
That's really reasonable, Gary.
Yeah, and even arguing on the internet, as much as people think I enjoy arguing, I don't enjoy arguing. I'm good at it, that's why I do it, but I don't enjoy it. It's frustrating as fuck.
Yeah.
I think you enjoy it a little bit.
I'm just saying, I really don't. Like I said, I'd imagine, I still have a working penis. You know what I mean? So there's so many better things to do. than even sit in this room. You know what I mean? If it was really free time for Gary, Gary could just say, "Okay, Gary, no worries, the world's fixed. Okay, we already gave it a pill. It's all set. It's all done. You can just goof off." Gary will play with his plants and his penis, and he'll be happy. You know, I'll never see you people.
Plants and penis.
Well,
yeah.
Well, I wanted to add. We kind of went over this. I think it was the last time we had the meeting. But like the idea that if you have to do something, it usually isn't fun. You know, like nobody wants to put gas in their car. You know, it's not a fun thing, but you have to do it. You know, to drive, right? And so a lot of life is that. You know, it's like there's things you have to do that aren't necessarily fun, and then you have these other areas where it's like it might not be the smartest thing to do or whatever, but it satisfies some kind of desire, you know, or some kind of.
Yeah, well, it's a tricky business, you know, because you can get way too task-minded, and then life is a treachery. So certainly you have to have those fantasy things that you live out, like little accomplishments in your personal life that'll give you some sort of gratification and all that. I'm not trying to discount any of that stuff. I'm just saying there's sort of a bigger payoff in just feeling like you're doing the best you can, and you can honestly say that I'm doing the best I can, and that's that's kind of a gratifying thing to be able to say to yourself that I'm not leaving too much on the table. You know what I mean? I'm getting the best out of my potential, and if you can say that about yourself, that you're giving it your honest best shot, you're not being a goof off or a loafer or just a party clown, that's kind of a satisfying position to be in.
Yeah. So on that note, could we bring that into the next topic?
Sure.
Is that okay? So yes, that's right, Gary. I agree. When I feel like I'm doing all the things that I can do today to fulfill my fullest potential, when I go to bed at night, I'm going to feel great. I'm going to feel fulfilled. I'm going to feel like my life has meaning. So I agree with you. And the next topic is find your path, the importance of perseverance, confidence, and never giving up. And that just falls along that lines. I think that it's essential. If we do those things, then we feel better and we're more motivated to do more, and we get more out of life if we do that, if we're trying to fulfill our fullest potential, like you're saying.
Well, I make a joke because I use this line from the Outlaw Josie Wales movie all the time. The old Indian says, endeavor to persevere. They told us to endeavor to persevere, and we thought about it for a while and decided to go to war. But I just, he was saying in a derogatory way, but just the idea of, those words are just cliche, and that's the movie's making fun of. But in a way, they're not, because even if it's a 1 in a million chance, some lotteries are worth entering, right? I'm going to cure all cancer, right? I mean, even if you have only a 1 in a million chance of doing it, it's still one of a hell of a ticket to buy, right? I mean, that's one. At least you're in that game that matters. So at least I'm trying to do something that, if it worked, would be fantastic. Yes, I'm likely to fail, but I'm going to feel good about being the guy who stayed on the boat and bailed. You know what I mean? So, maybe I'll go down with the ship.
Yeah.
But I gave it my all, and there was a chance. And if I would have been able to pull it off, it would have been spectacular. And so, I went for spectacular instead of mundane. So to me, there's a certain reward in saying, look, if I'm going to bother entering the Olympics, I'm not going for no friggin' silver medal, fuckers.
I'm right.
Exactly.
In that gold thing, damn it.
And I think that's where the greatest fulfillment comes. Even if you fail at it, at least you tried that thing. You tried to do that thing that was really hard. These are all excellent
points. The biggest horse or something. Maybe it's ego. Maybe some of it is. But I just mean that I think there's a real logically, rationally defendable argument to be made for fighting for principles and fighting for the best outcome, fighting for even utopia or perfection. Why the fuck not? Right? Why everybody can't get there? Fuck you. I'm going to get to the top of Perfection Mountain. Fuck you people. I'm going to prove you wrong.
well, I think that's
good.
I think that's a great sentiment. But I also think that sometimes you can make big differences with little acts. And I think that there's a value in that too. And as far as like a utopian thing or striving for a utopian society, civilization, a perfect situation, a lot of people that do that kind of fail horrendously. You know.
Well, I know, but the failure is good if you're going for something. See, you're saying that there's little things you can do, but no, there's little things you can do where you get cheap rewards. Like I go outside and I could buy $1 million worth of ho-hos tomorrow and go out handing out ho-hos, and everybody's gonna love me, right? I mean, the ho-ho.
You have all kinds of friends.
Yeah, where's our ho-hos?
Yeah, I mean, damn, okay?
Damn it.
I mean, you can't possibly lose, right? I just walking down the street making people smile. You know,
Right.
so that'll be really rewarding for me. But is that really going for the gold kind of thing, right? You know,
No.
Personal payoff, but I don't think there's little things you can do that are going to have a big impact. Really, I think big impacts really take stock vaccine kind of labor. You know, you really.
Yeah. But I think there's a lot of little, you know, not one little thing, but if you could do a lot of little things, you know, that could have an impact.
Well, isn't that kind of like microevolution leads to evolution?
Right, like quantum evolution. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, it's just you know, in that sense, you know, even if you're doing really big things, you still have to do little things to get there. So
Yeah,
I see where both sides are coming
bigger
from.
The argument: little Dixie cups don't grow into big Dixie cups. So there's some limit to that kind of analogy. So I don't think it's made out of little steps. I think it's made out of deliberate big steps. I mean, I think if you want to really leap that staircase, you got to leap it. You know what I mean? You can't take it a stair at a time. You got to do I'm taking 3 steps at a time, and I'm going to risk falling on my ass, but I'm going to get to the top in 3 seconds. You know what I mean? If you want to break the 4-minute mile, you know, you can't do it walking.
Right, and that gets back to competition, because to do that, you do have to compete with people, compete with ideologies.
Well, compete with your own ideology, though. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying it can all be internal. It comes from your own. You know, you made the desire by making your standard inside yourself. You're looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, "What the fuck did you do to lazy ass today? You know, what was your dumb ass excuse today? What fucking bullshit excuse did you make today? You know, and it's always your nagging on yourself. You got the competition right there, so you just want to beat your own high standards.
Right. I can't argue with that.
All right. I liked the answers. I think we hit it on the head. It was good. Nice. All right.
So what do you got next?
That was it.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah.
Now back to physics. Yay.
Hey Gary, what do you think of this situation with this Tay, this Microsoft Tay supposed AI? Have you been following that?
No, I mean AI is kind of a you're never going to be able to make you can program an intelligence, but they're not going to make an artificial intelligence until they make an artificial sentient. So until they make something that has a self-interest, can feel and say "fuck you, I don't like this."
Right.
It's really hard to make an actual intelligence that you didn't pre-salt with a bunch of function.
Well, the controversy was that okay, so supposedly Microsoft made this AI, this Tay, which I don't believe it was an AI. But anyway, what happened was a bunch of people more or less trolled this supposed AI, and what they had done is they turned the personality of it into a racist and everything else, right? It was all these negative things. So Microsoft deleted it, took it offline. So now my argument with Microsoft and like harassing them and some of the other people involved in that is if this was a real AI, then did you not commit an act of murder? And if it wasn't an AI, then what was the purpose of...
Right, so a non-sentient would automatically be, in my opinion, off the ethical book. So you couldn't harm a non-sentient, right?
Right.
And any object, any synthetic intelligence that was just a knowledge base that knew logic, wouldn't have a self-interest. So again, it couldn't say you're going to hurt me by killing me because it wouldn't have any interest.
Right. Well, that was the claims that they were making, is that it was sentient, which I think's a little ridiculous, that the claims they made. But what I think it is, and a few other people touched on this, is that they've been trying to crack down on censoring, controlling certain tweets or certain different interactions people have on the internet. So if they can put this fake AI out there, and they can say, well, look, this is what happens, when we put it out there, these people corrupt it, because the internet is a corrupting force.
Well, I know, but see, that's another catch. Is that obviously they have to learn So this is how they teach them, is through exposure. So there was another program before Microsoft had this, and I can't remember what it was called for the life of me, but it would ask you questions, logic questions.
Copycat.
It would learn logic from you answering these questions, and so it could actually do the 20 question thing, like any object. And it would be able to identify the object because it was doing it based on how people answered questions about objects. So it was actually learning through the process, and so now it could do the 20 question thing in 10 questions. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Well, Douglas
incredibly insightful at identifying objects, but the reason why it worked was because no one had an incentive to corrupt it with wrong information, right? So nobody showed up with fake information to deceive the logic.
Well, yeah, like Douglas Hofstadter's copycat program, right? Which was years and years ago. But they used to have that in all the Radio Shacks, and the thing is that they had it programmed where it would try to insult you, right? And so it had this preset of variable insults, kind of like the Terminator thing. It's got this preset of possible answers, and then it would also learn. It would pick up things from your language, right? So now if you were say a kid, playing with this program, of course you're going to insult it and try to get it to talk dirty and all this other stuff, right? That's to be expected. But I think that this thing that they did with Twitter, with Microsoft, I think it's for political reasons. I think they're doing it to try to say that the internet is corrupting people instead of the other way around,
Well, I think it's true both ways. I mean, I don't think the internet is in this form is doing people any good, because it does give power to the worst elements of psychology rather than the best. And so that's equalizing force is all very nice, but it does make it's like asshole. It's like the program. You know what I'm saying? It just encourages that lower and lower common denominator where you finally have a survivor where people will actually die. I mean, people will watch that show, right? If I made tomorrow a Survivor show where the people actually die on the show,
right, exactly. Everybody would be tuned in.
So I'm just saying, that kind of lowest common denominator is empowered in this medium, and that is a very negative thing.
Right. Yeah, I was wondering, did anybody else? Has anybody been following that? The Tay, Save Tay, or whatever, all that stuff. Hashtag Save Tay. Never mind. Moving along.
Is that fucking robot they got in cryogenic freeze right now?
No. It's just a chat program, but they were claiming, Microsoft representatives were claiming that it was a sentient AI, which I think that's just a gimmick they're using. I don't think there's anything like that.
It'd be a hard way to prove that one, right? So
right.
Well, to be honest, I don't think I'm gonna cry. So.
Yeah,
not feeling the tears coming on.
When my computer starts fake crying, or going fake ouch to me, I'm just going to say, oh, fuck.
Ouch.
It'd be almost like, say,
ouch.
I hit the wrong button. That hurt.
Well, you could see that extended into something like, say, cloning or whatever, and then people saying, well, the clone didn't work out, so we just killed it. And they're like, well, how could you kill it? It was a sentient being. Well, it wasn't a human. What do I care? That kind of thing.
Exactly.
That's what I see it as. Because I don't believe for a minute that it was sentient or anything like that. But I do think it was a cover for a psyops or a political program to add censorship to the internet.
Yeah, well, that's a bit of a truther theory that I can't really argue because, you can't disprove your...
Right, exactly. You can't prove it.
Three-headed unicorns. Microsoft, we're going with three-headed unicorns. We're with this AI thing instead, but the three-headed unicorn's still out there.
Well, maybe it'll be AI unicorns next,
Well, I'm just saying.
Right.
Yeah, it's a nice story, but blah, 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 blah. Yeah.
Right. Well, the thing is, though, if they use that and they say, okay, well, this is what happens.
Microsoft doesn't have Brain One, right? I mean, they got beaten by a silly company called Google. I mean, fuck. Google.
Yeah, I think there's some kind of war between Google and Microsoft for control of information, control of the internet. But
Microsoft already lost, right? I mean, Microsoft is out of business, right? I mean, if it wasn't for its business, it wouldn't have any business.
Right. So yeah, I just well, I think the whole thing's kind of goofy, but if they use it for for legislation in the future or for some kind of saying, look what they did to our AI, they destroyed it in a day, because that's kind of what they're saying. Like in 14 hours, we turned this artificial intelligence into.
You kind of know though that an artificial intelligence really
right.
It's going to be so rock solid. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be a military. Artificial intelligence, and you're not going to be able to goof on it,
Right.
You don't know when it's going to wet its pants or something. No, it's going to be pretty indestructible.
Oh yeah. So what else you guys got?
Oh, I have a question.
Go ahead.
No,
it's not a logic question, is it?
Yeah, it's not a lot. Okay, but no logic.
If we had like reputation points, you'd be running really low now.
It's not a logic question. It's a simple question, right? So, I know you work. So, who's ever worked with groups of people, or does work with groups of people in here?
Oh, I'm sorry. What was that again?
Who has worked with groups of people, or does?
Well, you mean like a team of people that are working at a task, or do you mean at a job where there's lots of people?
Like, do you say if you lead a class or a lecture, or you lead a group activity or something? I know you do, Logic.
Yeah, well, I had to work. I worked in the restaurant business, so obviously you have to work with the other waiters and waitresses and stuff. So I mean, you have to kind of you have to find some way to get something done without killing you.
Yeah. So basically, what I've found in some situations is that you sometimes you set a group task, and like a group task is set, and what happens is generally in like smaller groups or in group when there's like groups of people, generally like there's a leader sometimes, or there's someone who really speaks more than other people and kind of dominates like the activity and doesn't really listen to other people. And then what happens sometimes is there are certain people in the group that get a bit like overwhelmed by that, and sometimes like stay back and like withdraw. So I wanted to know, like, what would your solution be for that if you notice that happening?
Kill everybody else so I don't have to ever be in the group again, because I end up doing all the work and they don't do shit but get in my way. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's a really tough, that old, because I guess, personally, I haven't had any really good experiences in any group where somebody actually taught me how to do something, or was really leading the way, or, was really good at something and I made a contribution in some way, or, just, it's very seldom ever worked that way. So it does seem like you're saying that the group psychology is so, it breaks up into a hierarchy so quickly, like that fast.
Yeah.
And it's like either their project or it's my project, but it's not both of our projects.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Oh.
Well, what you can just do is just make sure everybody has an opportunity to speak. Right?
So how would you do that, though? Yeah.
Well, like, if there's something that...
Let's say you had to build a kite, right? You had a group of people, and you have to build a kite, right? This is what I had to do in high school with a group of people.
Yeah.
So what, should I let everybody who speaks, like even the asshole who has the idea, like, let's make it out of something really hard like lead? So it won't break, when it hits the ground, it won't break that way. Do I have to listen to him?
I think it's useful because you want him to listen to the other points that are likely to be more true, if that's what you think. So by letting him speak, it allows him to be more acceptable of what the other people are going to say. So it helps him weed out some of that stuff.
You have 3 hours to build this kite, all right? You got 3 hours. So you don't got time to be, making him feel like he belongs. What you really want to do is just, find a staple gun and staple him to the ground so he doesn't get in the goddamn way.
Well,
I think it depends on the situation, right? And of course it depends on the people, but you have different dynamics, right? So sometimes you have people that are very adversarial that work good together because they might be strong in different ways.
Yeah.
And they might have a different, their charisma, whatever, might affect people differently, right? Different groups of people differently. So I think you have to respect dynamics with that, but then not in all cases. You know, that's the same thing like with if you're
I think there's a quality to that whole argument about, like, say if you're really doing the planning part, and there's people who are too ambitious, and there's people like me, risk averse or something like that. And there's other things where I'm too ambitious, you know, and it's good to have that person to say, wait a minute, slow down. Why don't we go for the 50% thing, because that has a 90% less chance of breaking and blah blah. You know what I mean? So it's good to have somebody who can temper the other person's bold idealism or something, if you want to call it that, or somebody trying to do something way too aggressive. So in that sense, I could agree that, you know, sometimes you can have complementary personalities where you have, you know, if you have two people that are too aggressive, then you're in big trouble. If you have somebody who's very aggressive and somebody who's risk averse, and those people coming to a compromise, you can come up with something good. You can have a very complementary compromise depending on the constituents involved. You know, it's just like that positive, you know, positive, constructive interference and destructive interference, right? So you get those two extremes. So sometimes it can work out to be a very good balance.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I just think that it is helpful to get just lots of input on something, even because, like, you know, even the silly, lowly, not very intelligent guy or whatever, might have something like might have like some kind of useful detail to say about the kite, or at least like he points out what not to do. It's like, okay, thank you for telling us what not to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just mean that I just find it to be a nuisance, distraction, a waste of good processing time. You know, that's how I'm.
Well, if you can put him to work in like, if he's like really physical, then, you know, have him move all the heavy stuff. I mean, you probably don't have to listen to him talk, but if you're gonna staple him to something, staple him to a cart.
I'll send him out for beer and pizza. You know.
There you go.
From the really good pizza shop 30 miles away, you know, just so it'd take him a while to get back.
Well, like if you're in a band or something, you know, you might have that one guitarist that's just phenomenal, right? And a lot of people may come to see that one guitarist, but maybe the guy can't write or can't hold it together or whatever. So then the rest of the band's kind of like, you know, pulling his weight in every other way, but still he's
right. And the guy who's really important though is the guy who can't play at all, but you can practice in his garage. So, you know. He has a garage, and he has a rich daddy who can afford, you know, to buy gas to drive to the gigs and all that.
Right, yeah, and it goes that way a lot of times. Yep.
I was going to say that. Well, they say that about like certain starring musicians, like David Bowie, for instance. Like when he's just like a normal, regular guy sitting around, just like, hey, how you? As soon as you throw his ass on stage, living like a young American, it's just he knows.
I don't know. I think it'd be pretty interesting at a dinner party. But regardless, I mean, he was a sham, though, right? I mean, his whole life was pretty much a lie, right? I mean, the whole thing was just contrived, right? The whole shtick was they figured it out and said, we got to do something to make us interesting. So yeah, let's wear makeup, let's do this, let's do that. I mean, it's all contrived shit. You're just like kind of disappointed to find out. Oh, so this didn't have anything to do with who you were. It just had to do with, I got to look like the Eurythmics or something. You know, I got to have a catch. You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but then he kind of becomes that person. You know.
Well, I'm just saying though. But the person really isn't a real person, right? It's just that's my stage name, fuckers.
Right. And it was his wife's idea to wear a dress.
That's exactly it. And it's just kind of like disappointing that you figure these people have a little bit of soul, and then you say, "Oh shit!" But they sold all that, didn't they?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but you know that's where you have dynamics like I was watching some Buddy Rich stuff somebody posted, and I got to see him one time at the Ren Center, and he was I had heard, and I didn't know this, I had heard that he was a really mean guy and that he drank. Right now, I don't know if he drank. But he went off on one of the audience members and and called him up on stage, and he started grilling him because the guy had said something under his breath about one of his sax players. And it was amazing to see him, because if you were to see him, if you were to sit in front of him and watch him drum, it was just amazing. It was unbelievable the stuff he did. So he had this really, really good work ethic and competition ethic about himself, but he was really, really hard on other people. And
well, he looked like a psychotic person. I remember seeing him on like the Johnny Carson show, and you just say, that guy's insane.
Yeah, I met him one time.
He played insane drums, but I mean, I'm just saying he did look a little bit crazy.
Yeah,
he was.
He was poked out of his mind on that edition of He's still sniffing his nose and shit like that.
Well, I'm just saying he was pretty out there. I think as a as a psychology, he wasn't strung very tight.
No, but his band, I'll tell you what, I went there expecting to just be blown away by him, but the entire band was just so tight, and they just blew me away. And then I hear all these stories about how he goes off on the band, and they have these tapes, and I guess Seinfeld even used a few of the lines in some of his episodes about it because they were so big, these blow-ups, right? But the thing was they had a really tight unit, but they had to have that hierarchy with him, right?
Yeah, well, that's you see that with conductors, right? I find that kind of humorous just because I got into classical music a little bit, watched some of this stuff, and they had a couple of outtakes from conductors, the practice sections, and these conductors look like these old, tight, useless sacks of shit.
Right.
These guys were nailing these fuckers. Like, you play the violin like a fucking 5-year-old. What the fuck are you doing?
Right.
Fucking cunt. Will you fucking goddamn for a minute sit still? You use your arms. You do not move your whole fucking body to play a fucking instrument.
Right.
This 78-year-old white-haired little guy, and you're just, man, but what a bitch.
Oh yeah. But then sometimes you got to do that. That's. I mean, it works for these people you see that are just phenomenal at that, right?
Well, I mean, you have to keep pushing people to their highest potential, right? So you can't let them feel like they're doing right. Oh, I'm doing good.
Right.
Right? Because as soon as I feel like I'm doing good, I start relaxing and the tension's off, and then I suck. So if I'm fighting, if I still think I suck, then I'm going to fight not to suck. So I'm going to fight not to suck than to keep my perfection. So the two things are, you're always better off underestimating how good you're doing, because that'll keep you doing good.
Yeah, but
right, exactly.
When do you ever take the time to just sit back and enjoy it, though? Like, when do you ever, okay, I've worked my ass off.
Right, it's not that easy. I mean, it's not that hard. You unbuckle your pants, you pull your zipper down. 5 minutes. I'm in paradise, blah, blah, blah. I can go wherever I want. I can do whatever I want. I can fly, 5 minutes, 20 minutes, it doesn't matter, whatever in my mood, blah, 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 blah. There, I'm all relaxed, fine, done, finished. Back to serious. I'm just saying, fantasy is easy. I mean, I dream every night. I go on all kinds of fucking wacky adventures every single night.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's funny because, like, when people are in bands like that and they jam, there are people who they don't have any fun while they're doing it, but like they'll listen to the finished product, right? If it's a recording or whatever, and they'll totally get into that. And I'm kind of like, I'm always disappointed by the final product. I like being there in the moment. But you're stressed out while you're doing it at the same time.
I think that's true of all performance, right? I mean, all art kind of, you're not going to really enjoy making it. You're going to enjoy the product of it, but the process. I mean, I'm sure concert performers, and such, I'm sure they're not having any fun, making, timing it. You're
much tense. Yeah.
You're too tense to be having fun.
Right. And then you want to do it again. But yeah, it's the same thing. It's like you hear about those stage actors that every time before they go on stage, they're in the back throwing up, before they go on stage, really nervous and that. Then they go out there, they do fantastic, and they come off there, they're a wreck, But they're looking at the what they add to the entire show, right? And I guess it's the same with musicians. There are a lot of musicians, whatever, that idea of working towards.
It is work. It's not, the stuff. It looks like it comes out of people smooth, but I'm just saying that, the good ones they're probably not having any fun doing it because it takes control. I mean, it's like running the 3 and a whatever minute mile. You know what I mean? You're going to have to get there, and it's not going to be fun doing it because you're going to have to push every inch of yourself. You're going to have to push everything you can out of yourself to perform at that kind of level. So always that high performance stuff has got to be taxing. It just can't be something you do for fun.
Right. So, did we lose Logic?
1 minute.
He said he'll be right back.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah. So, what other topics did you guys want to hit on?
No, it's physics.
Yeah, I don't understand. Well, okay. So you are saying that, or if I understand it correctly, okay, you're saying that everything's made out of photons, but it's the way the photons move and congregate with each other, I guess?
They only have 2 different properties, right? They have polarization, right, a photon, and frequency. So what I'm saying is the basic quanton doesn't have the frequency part. It still has the polarization part, but no frequency. So that's the simplest particle. Is just a particle of the same exact size. All the particles are the same, and all they do is they move in one direction, the speed of light, until they hit something that says you're not going that way anymore.
Right. So what did I miss, guys?
Nothing.
Everything.
Yeah, everything. Exactly. You're just lying.
Gary told us the meaning of life. You missed it.
Shit, and I missed that.
And he cured cancer live on Google Plus, and you missed it.
No, I'm doomed because I missed the truth. I'm doomed to a terrible life of many mistakes now.
Yeah, you might only find a little bit of it in the 4,000 videos I've already made.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we're cool. We know now.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, not that I'm completely redundant, but yeah, I always say it a little different, right? Like, one day I'll say it and use the word and the next day I'll say and including. Yeah. So.
And here's an extra tidbit I'm going to throw in there today.
What are you making now?
The definition of lazy, he has to have something stir his drinks. Man, you're really in trouble.
Well, the trouble is this is green tea powder, and if you don't stir this stuff, it gets all clumpy. So you're like chewing your drink, and you don't want to chew that. It's like gross, super gross. Not good. Anyway, this is how I consume. This is my consumption.
Coffee and tea mixed?
Yep, green tea powder and coffee mixed.
Now that's not that sea cat tea, is it? Or coffee or whatever?
This is French roast coffee.
What a complete waste. Let's put French roast coffee in.
This is French roast.
Yeah, so we'll include it with some green shit. So yes.
Yes. It's quite delicious, actually.
Okay, all right, whatever. Yeah, that's right. And some people eat peanut butter on their bananas.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Disgusting.
I put marijuana on my cookies, so give it some of that natural flavor.
Yeah, but you only get 2% of the THC value. It's like shit in your dope.
Man,
I've seen that coming a mile away.
Wasting all that THC,
It was all very vogue when I was a kid, you know, and I was like, what? I ain't wasting no fucking pot cooking no fucking cookies, you fuckers. If it ain't flaming, I ain't in the game. No way.
All right.
But how does that green tea work for you though? Does it like calm your nerves and all that shit? Because I'm not really like I'm into like black stone tea, and it's like
I'm into black stuff too.
It's nutritious.
Theories on all this stuff, you know, the whole herb theory thing. It's just so you could go forever and ever and ever, just in trying to dissect all the theories about what this does, and antioxidants are good or antioxidants are bad, or it
kind of gets me a little high, so it's caffeine, Yeah. That's why I'm drinking it. Let's be honest.
Keep yourself awake. I just keep myself awake.
Yeah, I mean, and it tastes good. It tastes good and it feels good. That's why I'm putting it in me.
Yeah, why?
That's why you drink it.
Why else would I do it?
So does that other thing in Mendham was talking about.
Yeah, otherwise this would be water. If it was just about drinking something.
So
So the rest of you drink tea. I got to get back to it.
I drink tea.
Oh yeah. What type do you drink?
Normal. Just a normal tea.
Normal?
Just normal tea. Like the tea bag normal tea.
Regular ass tea.
Yeah, regular tea.
Yeah, it's some kind of silly English thing or something.
Yeah.
Like this. Latte. What the hell is a latte? All I know is yeah, I don't know anything.
Yeah, well, I just throw this in all the. This is all in the metrosexual category. This latte shit.
Oh,
Latte.
I think Gary's just jealous.
Yeah, no, I'm afraid not. I'm really happy to be cootie free, thank you.
He's like, oh, I wish I had one of those green tea lattes.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so jealous.
I'm glad.
One of those magic
I don't
wands
think I
stirring
ever said
thingies.
the word. I don't think I said the word latte until about three seconds ago when I just said latte.
It's reverse. You see, Gary, I understand you. It's reverse psychology. It's just all like, I don't want that, but what he means is, I really want that.
Yeah.
I frankly, I want to keep all my nut hormones. I don't, I don't. There's lattes.
I can't stand cocaine. Cocaine. Gotta get that cocaine, son.
Oh God.
This is becoming quite strange now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where is this going?
I don't know.
Okay.
I have no clue.
Well, it's probably past my bedtime anyway, but so
All right.
it was really quite tolerable. So maybe I'll do it or something. Yeah,
Well, Gary, thank you. You had a lot of great feedback on many of the topics.
Yeah.
And I was really happy with a lot of your responses and stuff. So it's great. Thank you for sharing your awesome mind with us.
Yeah, well, you can put in your posterity book because yes, when I win the Nobel Prize and everything, you'll all be saying, "Oh shit, that guy that won the Nobel Prize was in my room."
That's right. Okay.
All right.
Okay, man.
So, till next time and such. Thanks.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Okay. Okay, guys. So, anything else you guys want to talk about, or shoot the shit? I always thought that was a weird phrase, or saying, rather.
Right. Well, what's on your mind? Anything affecting your life that you'd like to bring up, or something you notice in the news, or?
Oh, yeah. Have you guys ever? So I was I was in the process of being abused by another person, and they changed like overnight.
Now you're not talking. Yeah. You're not talking about Jamal's logic thing that he.
Yes, right? Yes, that is what I'm talking about. No.
What?
That was
what?
No. Have you guys ever had an experience where somebody is just treating you really bad, and then all of a sudden they're treating you really nice, and it's just kind of like, what?
Yeah, maybe something clicked in their head, or they need something.
Yeah. Right.
No, not really.
Yeah, whenever I witness that, it seems strategical. It seems like it's a strategy for them to get some sort of upper echelon, and normally that's what it is. It's a lot of deceit behind it that I normally sense. So I mean, for different people it's different, but for me it's always been, if you hate me one minute and then you're coming up, I'm sorry for that. But if you're
I burped at the same time, it was kind of odd, actually.
That was that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, usually if you hate me one minute and then you come up to me and start asking me for favors, or you're like, "Oh, you're the greatest," true, and like, no, get away from me, suspect. You have an agenda on you. I smell it. So I usually just kind of, I just sense it. Something's not right.
Well, some people, there's people I work with, people I know that they're really, really moody, right? And it depends what time of the day you talk to them to, but they'll be normally very standoffish, and every once in a while they just want to talk your ear off, right? And they'll be like really nice to you. And I think that's I think some people are just like that, where they don't want to open up, and they have that change of heart for whatever reason, something else, some other reason that has nothing to do with me or nothing to do with you. You know, they'll all of a sudden want to talk to you, right? And you have people like that, and then of course you're going to have people that want to manipulate you. You know, so what kind of situation is this? A girl situation? Is this
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a girl. Yeah.
Okay, now is this something?
A woman.
Oh, yeah. Is this a romantic thing, or like borderline?
She likes you.
Oh no, like no. It's somebody I do I work with. Somebody I do worky things with.
Oh, okay. And so it's more of a friendship, professional thing?
What?
More of a friendship thing or a professional thing?
No, definitely not a friend. A little bit professional.
Oh, okay. So now,
although I wouldn't consider her behavior professional. Anyway, but go ahead.
Well, how much did you pay her?
Okay.
No, but okay. So, is this something where the two of you respect each other as professionals?
No.
Oh no. Okay. Okay. So there's professional differences.
Yes,
right?
there are. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Alongside of personal differences, or no?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, your mic went off. I lost you.
Oh, sorry about that. I'm here.
Okay. Okay. So I think I'm probably making it more complex than it is.
Yes.
Right?
You might be.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now, if it's strictly a professional thing, is it a matter of method or a matter of outlook or belief?
I think it's everything.
Okay, so
it's a complete circle, if you will.
Yeah.
It's all the good stuff. All
okay.
The whole shebang.
So this person probably doesn't respect you on a personal level for a number of reasons. Yeah. And you don't really care for her for a number of reasons that may be personal or otherwise, right?
Yeah.
And but there are times when you can work together, right? I mean, there are times when, like you said, now she's kind of coming along your way or something.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Now, could this be because of anything that you have done or another worker did or said?
Well, I mean, it's
I don't want to get you in trouble if it's.
Yeah, it's not really worth like talking about in that way, because it's. Anyway, I just wanted to talk about the concept of people doing that.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm not sure, because like I put a lot of thought into it, and I can't figure it out myself. So.
Well, I had a bipolar girlfriend for a while. And,
yeah, I think there might be something like that. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. This girl, when we had good times, they were just awesome. They were just great, right? But she was like Hannibal Lecter crazy, and when she would be in her bad times, there was a lot of stuff that no one could deal with, right? And it was one of those things where it would change like every other day. You know, it's like we'd be. Everything's hot and heavy one day and we're getting along or whatever, and then the next day it's like, well, I never want to see you again, that kind of thing. And then the next day it's, oh, I made a big mistake, that kind of thing. And this person has always been like this with a lot of other people. I didn't see it at first, because she was on medication for it, and then she went off the medication. And a lot of times what you hear is when people do that, you'll hear like, well, they went off their medication. Well, also, she was drinking and doing some other things, you know. So that affected her, right? It affected her more than, say, a person that's normally stable, right? And she's one of these people that I never really could figure out, and we just had to have a parting of the ways. Now, we didn't work together, so it's a different situation there. But when I met her, she worked across the street from me, so it was one of those things where no matter where I went, she was only like 5-10 minutes away. She could get a hold of me or whatever, which made things really, really stressful in the bad times, you know.
Yeah.
So now if it's somebody that you have close proximity with that you have to see because of job restrictions or whatever, then you have to find a way to amiably work with her. I mean, even if that means like very little contact, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I
that's
always,
basically what I concluded.
yeah, well, see now, if there's something, everybody's got some kind of angle to them, right?
Yeah.
So everybody's got a hobby they like, or they got maybe a band they like, or whatever it is, right? Maybe somebody really likes painting, or they're into painting, or they whatever. So if you can find out what this niche thing is, this angle.
Oh yeah, that's interesting.
And then you just focus on that. I had a friend of mine that I'd known for a long time. She ended up dating this roadie that used to roadie for me, and years ago. And they had a few kids and all this other stuff. Well, she got cancer, and it was one of those things where she kept going in for operations like every other year, and it was just coming back and all this other stuff. And she passed away about 2 years ago. And she was on Facebook sometimes, and she was in really, really bad shape, right? And everyone was telling her like, oh, you know, I feel so bad for you. I'm giving you my prayers, all this other stuff. And she says, well, it's so hard. It's just so hard to do this and all that. And so I would tell her, because nobody that I saw was doing this, I would tell her, I'd say, look, I say, Carrie, you know, what about your kids with the hockey game? How did it go? You know, you were saying something about that the other day. What happened? And so I'd kind of distract her, turn her away from the pain stuff for a little bit. I mean, I'm sure what I didn't do that much, but it was a little bit of a help for her, right? To kind of get her spirits out of the dumps, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people won't do that because they're afraid of how they'll look to other people, right? They're afraid of like, what an insensitive asshole, you know, that this guy's like, you know, he's not, I feel sorry for you. You know, I'd be like, hey, you know, what about your kids? I want to talk about them, you know, and she'd get talking about them, and she'd feel a little better, you know, for that little space of time, right? So now, your situation doesn't sound like it's quite as dire as that, right?
Yeah.
You know.
Anyway, it's not. I can't give you any details.
Oh, okay.
It's been war, dude. I've been at war. Basically.
Oh. Okay. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, Jamal, what do you think?
It's good though, because I used to have anxiety, and I don't anymore, because I've been going through so many severely traumatic situations.
Yeah, well,
you know, like from it's like exposure therapy. You know, I've been I've been dealing with so much stuff that I'm just no big deal anymore.
Resilience,
Yeah.
Well, see, a lot of that, it's been my experience. I can't speak for your experience, but for my own experience, there's this thing where people tell you, you have to do this, you have to do that, right? You have to aspire to be this or be that or do that. And then what you end up finding is that you're fighting for somebody else's dream of what they think you should do. It's not your own dream.
Yeah, and you're right, and that's the thing. I don't want to live under the weight of someone else's dream, you know?
Right. Yeah. So there are times when you just got to kind of close yourself off, just think about it. And I'm not saying for days or weeks or whatever. I'm just saying for like an hour, 2 hours, right? Meditate on it.
For as long,
Yeah, and just think about it and say like, well, okay, altruism aside, altruism be damned, what am I getting out of this? And then you look at that, what you're getting out of it, then you say, these feelings that I have, are they positive? Are they going to help me? Are they going to be useful to me? Or are they going to be something that's going to hold me back? And if it's something that's going to hold you back or whatever, you got to lose those feelings.
Oh yeah, and that's why I don't have any feelings about the person or the situation.
Right. Okay. So
so I think I'm doing the right things.
Yeah, and the thing like what Gary was saying earlier, right, about you know, people doing as much as they can and whatever. I used to look at things that way. Now I'm totally opposite of that, right? I'm like, no matter what you do, no matter what anybody does, nobody's ever going to be good enough, right? And you can have competition and you can set a standard for yourself, but you're not going to be perfect. You know, you're not going to aspire to all these things. You're not going to have the perfect morality, the perfect whatever. So the thing is just be good to other people, be good to yourself. You know, don't sacrifice yourself for everything, right? Yes. And you know, just realize that no one's perfect. Everyone makes mistakes. No one's going to do everything they can do to make the world better, right? I mean, nobody's going to do that.
And that's where a lot of these topics for the videos are coming from.
Yeah.
Just my experiences with a lot of traumatic situations and people who clearly are developing negative thoughts about me or acting on them or just treating me badly with based on a misconception they're having or emotional or cognitive dissonance.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, you seem very personable to me, and
I am.
You seem very aggressive. Like, I mean, you're not like an aggressive person. I mean, from what I see, right? And I'm not saying
and
that's
I'm always
a bad
like
thing.
this. I don't change my behavior. I'm pretty consistent. So.
Okay, so could this be something? Could the root of this be that you're holding back? That there's something that you feel that you're controlling yourself too much. That you're compressing yourself too much to make other people happy?
Like, I think for sure, like, when I'm around a lot of people, I don't feel like I can be myself or communicate to people so easily. And I think, but it's only because they do things like gossip or they involve themselves in negative conversations, and it's just not something that I can talk about because I'm going to be positive. And
right. Well,
And so if you say something negative, I can't just let that sit on me, you know?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not recommending that everyone do this, right? I'm saying it works for me, right?
Okay.
Sometimes I get out of work and I may not even be in that bad of a mood, right? Or when I leave for work, I get in my car and I'll just be, as soon as I start driving and there's nobody around, whatever, I'll just yell "fuck" at the top of my lungs. Right? Just even if I don't feel mad, I'll make myself feel mad to do that, right? To get that out of my system, right? And there's times, you know, there's plenty of holes in the walls where I've just punched the walls and stuff like that. I got my own place, and it's, you know, it's been devastated a few times. I'm still rebuilding, and my brother's helping me with a lot of that. So I don't worry about it as much, right? So I realize that you can't just do that, just punch out all your walls and stuff like that. But you have to have something where you can decompress, right?
Oh, well, okay. So I'm gonna stop you there because I don't have any bad feelings about it, or it doesn't.
Maybe you don't have the rage aspect.
Yeah,
of it.
I'm not angry or anything. Yeah.
Okay,
it's
well maybe
it's just like a concern, isn't it? It's more about like.
Yeah, it's more like why are these people doing these things?
So why? Yeah. I'm questioning the nature of it.
And I just respond to it because I'm like, okay, all right. So you want to fight with me? All right, okay, let's do it. And then I play. But
yeah, that see, I don't know enough of your situation.
Exactly.
You know, and I'm not trying to tell you that that there's one way to be, right?
But I see all your arguments for sure. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Well, I mean, there were. Look at it like, okay, if there was a romantic relationship or something, right? And so you trusted in this person. I'm saying as a hypothetical, right?
Yeah.
It's not. We're not talking about the same person or anything like that. Just a hypothetical. And you put trust in this person, and you really think they're into you, and they do all this stuff for you, and then all of a sudden they betray you, right?
Oh yeah, I've had that experience. Yeah.
Right. And you're going to be Wow, I think we got a storm or something coming. I just saw some wicked lightning. Anyways, if I lose power, that's what it'll be, you know. But anyway, you know, there's this point where there's like this grieving process after it's said and done, right? And I'm one of those people. I'm very, very obsessive, right, with people that I'm with, and usually the people I'm with are obsessive too. Right, and it doesn't work after a while or whatever, but there's a point where you just have to say, look, are these emotions that I have, are they destructive to me, and what do they do other than just make me feel bad or make me, you know, and if that's the case, now see, if you have emotions like that and they motivate you to fight, you know, I mean, to better yourself in some way, or learn something, or take up something, or whatever, then it might be a good thing to hold on to those emotions. But if all it's doing is driving you down, there's a time when you have to say, look, I'm going to take control of these emotions. I'm going to cut them loose. Right? I'm going to direct that energy, whatever you want to call it, psychic energy, emotional energy. I'm going to invest that in myself. I'm going to invest it in something new, right? And something that you want to do. And you know, that should help you with other people, and it'll make your situation better. And you know how it is. It's like you go through all that, and say you meet somebody else, and it works out good or whatever. All that stuff in the past, it's still there. It doesn't go away, right? But it's not hurting you the way it did, right? It's not. It's something useful. There's lessons with everything, right? So you don't want to totally mind wipe yourself, right? But you want to make your emotions work for you. You know.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, yeah. That's all good stuff, and I think that's the transformation I've been a part of. I think that's what's been happening is over time with all of the stuff that's happening around me, I just learn more and more that I can't dwell on things. I just accept people. I accept their behavior. I forgive them. I let them be themselves because they're not going to listen to me or what I think or change for my benefit.
Right, right.
And so I let them be themselves, and you know, I try to.
Well, I've had situations where everything was almost perfect, right? And and you know, the girl really cared about me. I really cared about her. But the thing is the things that we wanted out of life. I mean, aside from what we wanted from each other, the things we wanted out of life were totally different, right? And so there was a point where we had to say, like, you know, look, it doesn't mean I don't care or whatever, but it ain't working, you know, because if you ever go into something, a lot of people go into something trying to change the other person, and what they say, I guess the saying is that guys want the girl to stay exactly the same, right? The woman to say exactly the same when they get with them, but women look at guys like there's something they want to change, right? So everything all right?
Yeah.
Oh, but you know, that's like a common meme. You know, guys want everything to stay the same. Women want everything to change. You know.
Okay. So, sorry, Max. I had to kick Max because there's a lot of noise coming from him.
Oh.
Anyway, but yeah. Okay. So I totally see what you're saying, and yeah, I definitely agree with what you're saying. I dated a Japanese girl, and she was like totally amazing for like the first year, just absolutely incredible, like total dream girl. And then all of a sudden, she just changes, like because of a lot of external pressures, and job hunting in Japan is very rigorous and painful.
Right, right.
And you know, work-related stress. When you start working in Japan, they kind of, you know, they use you as their footstool a lot. You know, a lot of crappy errands and long work hours. You know, stuff like that. She changed. You know, her personality changed, and she started becoming a really bitter, negative person, and blaming me. You know, and you know, not directing her emotions properly, not controlling herself, not letting go of the negative feelings she has for other people, and letting it carry over, you know.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So
and,
So, well, all you have to do is win the lottery, and then she'll come back to you, right?
Oh yeah, right.
No, that's people. People, people are fickle, right? And
Go ahead.
people are fickle, in relationships and stuff, and there's I remember sometimes you can get somebody who's like really sincere all the time, right? They're just like they make their whole world about you, and that's not good either,
Oh yeah.
You have to have that dynamic, right? And everyone has character flaws, right? Where they will look for a certain type of character flaw or something that satisfies a character flaw, and it's not necessarily the best thing for people like people that like they'll maybe date somebody that they think they can fix them up.
Yeah. That's
like a fixer-upper, you know what I'm saying?
That's a bad idea.
Yeah.
It is. It's always a bad idea. And then you'll see, like, when they do, hit it off, you'll see the same people if they get married or whatever. It's like, 5 years, 10 years down the road, and then they've got all these problems multiplied that started. It's like nothing got fixed. It just got more and more intense, and it just got all shifted to this guy, right? So that's but I don't want to make you I don't want to make you uncomfortable or anything. You know what I'm saying?
No, sorry, I'm just playing with camera angles and stuff. Sorry.
All right.
I'm listening. I am.
Oh,
I swear. Scout's
no
honor.
narcissistic. Yeah.
Now pay attention.
No narcissism going on.
Yeah, that. I don't have any answers for that. I pretty much keep to myself. It's like all day when I'm working in that, I'm with other people. And and I talk to other people, and I think I have almost as many friends that are women as men, right? It's just that for all the stuff for my age and for all the stuff I put up with in the past, I'm not about to like say hook up with somebody and have the whole family and have to put up with the parents and everything else, and have to give up like a lot of myself, right? So that's. And there's some people that are totally comfortable with that. There's some people who are really family oriented, right? And they could just hook up with somebody else that has kids or whatever, and they fit in perfect, Well,
and I think with me, I'm really focused on my individualism in terms of my self-development and my peace of mind, the calmness of my surroundings.
Right.
So it's very hard for me to be with somebody that it impedes upon me, that prevents me from doing the things that I think I should and want to do. You know what I mean? So
right.
That's why that relationship I had didn't work out, even though I really cared about this person, because they were impeding upon my peace of mind and stuff. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Jamal, what were you saying?
Oh, nothing.
Well, you always want to prioritize, not that you want to prioritize, but you have to prioritize, right? And it depends, the person could mean a lot to you, but, I can give you a general scenario, something I tried a few times, right? Back when I was jamming all the time, when I was doing all these different things with bands and stuff, girls would, they'd see you on stage or whatever, and they'd like you, right? And
yes, I am aware.
Well, you know what I'm saying, and it's the thing is you just hook up, and then everything's cool, but then some of them are like, they want you to quit doing what you do, right? They want you to quit the band.
Yeah.
So that, how come you don't spend enough? But what happens, and this happens almost. Well, see, yeah, but here's what's funny. Here's what happens in almost every case with everyone I've ever seen that has done this, and it's happened with me too. It's like as soon as you take those pictures of the other girls and you throw them out, as soon as you put your guitar up or whatever, keyboard, guitar, whatever it may be, the girl will dump you because you've given up a big part of what attracted them to you.
Yeah.
You've become less of yourself and more of what she thought she wanted you to be, right?
Yeah, which isn't, because
yeah.
right. It's not. It doesn't. It doesn't follow.
Right, and in hindsight, that
Yeah.
makes perfect logic, right? In hindsight, that's totally
Yeah.
logical, right? But
Yeah.
when you're all wrapped up in it, you know, and you're all emotional at it, you're like, oh yeah, sure, honey, baby, I'll I'll quit this, I'll quit that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so if you do that, that's like the worst thing you can do. Never give up. If it's a hobby or whatever, don't give it up for a girlfriend or whatever, because it'll make you less attractive.
Yeah.
To them, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, we probably ran this into the ground. Is there anything? Okay, this work thing or whatever. Is this something that you can work on? That you can find an angle where you and this person can get along? Or?
Well, I'm only gonna work a couple more months, so ain't no big deal. No big deal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really care, and
you'll never have to see the person again.
Yeah, and they won't want to see me again, and I certainly wouldn't don't have any feelings one way or another about seeing them. So
that's good then.
If I were to see them, I would be nice. Be like, oh hey, how are you?
Right. I mean, you shouldn't have.
How are you doing?
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
That's great.
And then if you see the person. Well, yeah, and if you see see this person 10 years from now, and they're cool with you, you know, you can always be like hi and bye, and you know, nothing lost, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, indeed. Do you guys have anything that you want to talk about really quick or anything?
I do.
Okay.
He's got a logic question.
Let's do it.
No, not a logic question. Not
another logic question.
no, a logic question.
Whoa.
Actually, I think the fact that that was a lot of fun. I think the fact that it was impossible to figure out was awesome. That was good.
Yeah.
Very good.
Right. So I just wanted to talk about, because I was thinking, like, I've been watching YouTube a lot, and I was thinking seriously, like, I was thinking like, it's so the way it is, like, on the outside. Like, when you just see people, like, vlogging and doing videos, it feels so sad. Like, it feels so sad that they have to do that. Like, there's a percentage of the world that has to do that for, like, attention, or to feel good about themselves, or to feel like that their life has purpose, or their life has meaning. And it just makes me think, like, sometimes, it just makes me think, I wish we didn't have to, like, try so hard for other people to like us, or for other people to, I wish it was just a lot more simpler, but because, like, you know, it seems like, people, like, judge things on looks, and it's like, yeah, if I look good and I'm selling myself, and you know what I mean? It's just, it just really bothers my mind, that really does. It really gets to me. I'm so confused by it. It's just like, what the hell? Like, why do I have to, like, do something like 10 times? Why do I have to work 10 times harder for something that should be simple?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Well, I think, I can speak from my perspective.
It just confuses me.
Yeah.
It's like,
well, so
putting makeup on, like, you know, like, when, like, women, like, putting makeup on and everything, and it's just like, we're all just, like, dressing up in these expensive clothes, and we're spending so much money on these, and all it is for is just for other people to accept us, so we can have more friends, more likes, more this, more that, and it's just like, what's the point? I don't see.
Yeah.
Getting laid? That's a good point.
That's quite superficial, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, well, I could say that for me, I have all these ideas in my head, and I just like to get them out. And being able to share the ideas I have with other people allows me to accept them and let them go. It's like I'm actualizing. You know, I'm actualizing my thoughts into reality through conversation, and then because we've talked about it, I can let ideas go that I don't need anymore, or I can accept ideas that are good that I need to keep and hold on to. And It's just, this is just fun. We're just here to have fun.
Yeah.
And I'm probably never going to monetize anything. It's just going to be, us just hanging out, having a good time. And, when I didn't do this, I had problems because I would have a desire to be able to express myself and talk about ideas that I have, or have conversations about things that I want to talk about or feel like I need to. But people don't want you to air your thoughts on them.
Yeah.
It makes people upset. So, they just want you to go ooga ooga. Oh, ooga ooga? Oh, ooga ooga ooga. Ooga. That's mostly what people want to have a conversation about. So, so anyway, just a little joke, caveman jokes.
Yeah.
But anyway, go ahead.
Because for me, right, like one thing that this is for me, like I don't know if you're like, you can like obviously like criticize me all you want for this, but like for me, I've just lived by the principle, like I've just lived by this principle of like, it doesn't really matter what I wear or how I present myself or look, like in terms of like clothing or whatever, like people are still gonna pick on me.
Well, Jamal, you gotta start dressing cooler, dude. That's the problem. No, I'm kidding. No, don't care about what other people think, man. Just wear what you want to wear, like me.
Yeah.
Am I cool?
Yeah, of course.
I don't care. Am I cool? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just this whole.
I'm not trying to be cool though.
It's just this whole ridiculous like you have to make yourself a product, make yourself sellable. Do you know what I mean? Like make yourself a product to attract other people.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of sad, even as far as like job hunting and stuff. There's a lot of talking and convincing you gotta do and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, maybe look at it like this. So the way you look can be an extension of how you feel or what you think inside. And so instead of using my outside appearance to attract people, I'm using it to project my sense of virtue or my perspective or how I want people to perceive me.
Okay.
Like that's a way you can think about it rather than just I'm trying to impress people, type of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're right. It is silly to do things
do so
just to
much.
attract
Just
people.
do so much, and all it is for is just so people will like us. People will wanna. Do you know what I mean? It's just so mundane. It's just like I'd rather just do something simple. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'd rather just be as simple as just I share my thoughts with you, and hopefully from that you get some sort of observation from me.
Right.
And whatever happens from that happens.
Yeah, and here's the thing, like if you wear sweatpants and a hoodie every day, that really think about that for a second.
Yeah.
There's a guy who wears a sweatshirt and sweatpants every day.
Yeah.
You're gonna develop a cognitive sense of who that person is. You're gonna attribute the outside object, the anthropology of the object, to some emotion or cognitive thoughts or concepts.
Yeah.
And when you do them, you're developing a perception of them. So the clothes are kind of an extension of yourself, in that they're, like you said, you're branding yourself, but it's not there for, like, it can be shallow. It can be there just to attract people.
Yes.
But if you're thinking of it more in terms of something deeper, where you're helping other people develop a cognitive sense of who you are.
Yes.
See, that's where I think the value is, if you're doing it for that reason, that way.
Yeah.
So, there
hey
you go.
guys. Hey guys, I got a horrendous thunderstorm going on right now.
Yeah, we wouldn't want your computer to blow up, so later.
I'm gonna have to go offline just for now. I'll still watch you guys on my phone and that, but I'll try to pimp the show on that. But I probably won't be back in because I can't hear anything on that when I'm doing it. But
Okay.
but yeah, it's a cool show on that. That was pretty cool, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was great.
Okay. Yeah, I hate to leave it short like this. It's just I don't want to blow
No,
up.
because we're actually over. The show's actually kind of over, and we're just hanging out. But
Yeah.
So thanks for coming, man.
Okay, thanks. I'll be in the next one. You guys take it easy, okay?
Okay, later, man.
Okay.
Stay safe.
Bye.
Okay, thank you.
Bye. All right. So yeah. So what do you think about that then?
Yeah, I guess that's valid.
Yeah. So we have like 5 people watching. So we're done, but you guys can join and talk and chat about anything that you'd like. So I know some people are watching, so if you guys want to join in or you have something that you want to talk about, that's cool.
It's like you're talking down to them, though. Now that you've got the perspective, it's like you're talking down
to
them. It's talking down to you.
Logic Churchers, join Logic Church.
If you want to join.
Join if you want, or don't join at all. No, please join, guys. So, more the merrier. All right. Good stuff. Okay, so Bernardo, hello, nice to meet you, sir.
Hey, hello.
How are you doing? How you doing, man?
Guess I came in a little late.
Yeah. So it's usually at 3 o'clock. So we started 3 hours ago.
Oh, damn.
We've been here for a bit.
I just saw it on my feed. That's why I came in. I didn't even.
Cool.
Didn't know what it was.
Anything on your mind, man?
I don't know.
Nice. Not having peace of mind is good too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Peace of mind. All right. Any other queries, Jamal? Queries.
That was just kind of it, really. Like just the mundaneness of having to just do so much just to get your opinion out there, or just to get something, just to paint an image of you. Do you get what I mean? Just to sell an image of you to people. Well, do you get what I mean? Like project an image of you.
Yeah, it
feels
is.
like you're doing too much for that sometimes. It just feels confusing.
It is. It definitely is.
Yeah.
But yeah, I see a lot of people. I'm noticing a lot of great comments. You guys should join and then talk about this stuff with us. But yeah, it kind of sucks we lost our chat. So
I know. I was trying to see that
yeah.
to see if anyone was like, "Oh, the logic puzzle." Everyone was like, "In the answer."
Yeah, the trouble is, I was doing these from an event on Google Plus, and then it would allow us to use chat. And from starting a hangout on Google Plus instead of going to an event, apparently it doesn't give you a chat, which is
damn it,
malarkey.
That's preposterous.
Preposterous. Talking down to you.
Because I'm taller.
All right. Okay, well, you guys, I think that's it. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're finished.
Yeah. So, oh, somebody joined.
Oh no.
Mr. Patrick.
Hello.
Hello, that's a very scary avatar you have there, sir.
Is it?
It is frightening.
Bale. Is it Christian Bale? I think it is.
It's Christian Bale from American Psycho.
Yeah, it is.
Yes, we see that.
I knew it was, I could recognize that.
Yeah.
Rest assured, I'm not a psycho.
Oh, well, that's all I needed to know. And,
I'm just a cinephile, not a psycho.
Okay, yeah, see? I don't know what that is.
Big difference, right?
Well, you guys, I think we're going to end this for now, so anything else before we go?
Are you gonna do any more of these anytime soon?
Yeah, this is every week.
Oh, okay.
Yep, same time every week.
I might join earlier then in the next one. Hopefully.
All right.
If I catch it.
Yeah, we haven't been filling up totally, so there should be a spot for you.
Nice.
There's always a spot.
Yeah. All right, you guys. Well, I'm going to stop the broadcast now.
Okay, cool.
All right, take care, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.
That's all, folks.